I'm also going to... No, we'll do that during the next part. Okay, here we go. Ready?
Yes, sir.
That's weird. The colors of that light bar just changed.
They're changing considerably.
It's always set to red and the remote is up on the shelf. A ghost. Or maybe it was lightning because it's pouring outside.
Is it?
It is. It is. All right, ready? Here we go. We're coming back in 3, dose 1.
From the Gettysburg Museum of History Studios, you're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this pre-recorded Ask a Gettysburg guide. And today we are talking about Robert Edward Lee and George Gordon Meade and their leadership styles. It's a compare and contrast, if you will. And we're focusing on their styles during the Gettysburg campaign, not since the Mexican War, not since they, whatever, not since the beginning of the Civil War. We're just talking about
demonstrated
campaign.
Yeah, demonstrated decision-making style during this campaign. Yeah.
Because this is pre-recorded, obviously we can't read your super chats live on the air because we're not live on the air. However, we do appreciate your super chats for your appreciation of all the hard work we put into this show. And of course, we're going to ask our questions submitted by our patrons. We've got a lot of them today.
We do.
And that's going to be at the end of the show. And we'll also be taking calls from our patrons at the end of the show after the commercial break. So now let's get started. Jasan Hileman is our guest. Jasan is a licensed battlefield guide of 40, 50 years, I think you said, something like that?
No, a little bit less.
9 years, close enough. Right? And so 9 years. That was
fast.
Yeah.
So I took the 2015 exam, December, and then licensed in September of 16. So this September will be 9-year anniversary.
And when was your first time on this show? Like 2020, 21, something like that?
Would have been
probably
the bike shed.
Yeah, the good old days.
Yeah, you would know what year that was.
Well, it was not after 2023 because that's when we moved here. 2023. So there you go. All right. So you've been on it for a while. All right, Jasan. First of all, is this your topic or was this Dave's suggestion?
No, I think this was my topic.
Okay, so
Dave asked about reading the topics, and I said, "Yeah, no. How about
I got one for you? Yeah, good. I like it when it comes from the guide best.
Let's do leadership.
Yeah. All right. So first of all, where did you get this? So obviously, is this like a talk you've given or a tour that you give or?
So working with the Gettysburg Foundation, Higher Ground Leadership, and I've been doing leadership on the battlefield since 1 year after I got licensed. So that would have been 2017. And that was back when Sue Boardman had started that.
Okay.
And it was in the footsteps of leaders. And the first time I went out was with the Sue. Shadowed her, watching the, and it's the same model. There's lots of leadership programs, around the town, and people who come in, and you have staff rides. It's the same concept of use what happened in our history to make us better and to reflect upon their styles and the different choices you have to make as a leader, and then apply it. And so a lot of companies come in and they have even individual contributors to first level supervision to upper management. And you use the examples of what happens in this backdrop to make you better at your job.
Sure.
And a better person.
I always thought if all the different leadership companies in town banded together to create one big company, they would all be richer than they'd be keeping their own businesses.
Maybe.
No, I think definitely.
Yeah.
Because you use each other's clients and then it's just everybody wins.
I don't even know how many there are, but there's
75. There's 75 of them. Yeah. I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 or maybe even less. But still, there's a lot. I just figured, it's like,
And then you factor in all the staff rides that occur, all the colleges that bring the ROTC.
And, not only that, but foreign armies I've seen on the battlefield here. I've seen, I remember years ago, I saw guys in German uniforms. I don't remember what it was, but it was very brightly colored. Not the uniform. It was their flag on the arm. It wasn't Ukraine. It was some like Polynesian country. I can't remember which one it was. Wow. But like, and I mean, for the longest time, foreign militaries have come and studied this battle. I mean, it is a battle to study.
Yeah.
And the leaders here, we had some good ones. Yeah. We had some meh.
And you can apply the concept to any battle. So, and it's just using what occurred and the decisions and the style and the choices they made as a reflection of, how could I apply that to what I'm doing? Right.
And I just realized that that's Buford, not what's his face.
Right.
Yeah. Just realized it. Sorry.
Not Gouverneur Warren.
No, it's not Warren. I always just looked at it quickly and I just assumed it was Warren because everybody uses Warren, but no, that's Buford.
That's Buford.
All right, so let's get into this then. So we're starting at May of 1863.
Yeah.
Por qué? Por qué are we starting then?
So in the wake of the Chancellorsville victory by Robert E. Lee, Lee goes to Richmond and, as the story goes, meeting with Jefferson Davis to decide upon a campaign for 63. Why I like to start there is this puts the weight of the campaign on Lee. Mm-hmm. All right. So most people are going to know the argument of dividing the Army of Northern Virginia, sending some out west to try and break the siege at Vicksburg. Lee's going to argue no, to keep it all together, do an invasion into the North. But in the backdrop of all this, you have the supply issue. Oftentimes, I like to use the Anaconda Plan caricature.
A man, a plan, a canal.
Yeah, about Winfield Scott's plan to defeat the rebellious states.
Oh, that one, yes.
It is recognize the advantages and disadvantages of you and your opponent, right?
Right.
And they don't have the stuff, the material, right? So if you deny them outside access, they don't have what they need.
Right.
You've got this big population disparity, 22 million people in the North, 9 million people in the South, 4 million of that is slaves, et cetera. And that's actually a character that was made fun of at the beginning, Winfield Scott's Anaconda Plan, because it won't last that long.
Right.
It'll be over in 3 months.
Right. We don't need to do this.
We don't need that.
It's too much.
But what does play out is the Anaconda Plan.
Right.
So by the summer of 63, the writing is on the wall. You are not, you're not going to be able to win a protracted war if it continues, because we're going to run out of. The naval blockades are getting tighter. Inflation is, going through the roof. We're losing men on battlefields to win victories that it's getting harder and harder to replace. They see the equation, and the military equation of power of resistance is equal to will times means. So I don't know if you've ever heard that one. Power of resistance is equal to will times means. So you got to have the will to fight, and you got to have the means to fight.
Yeah.
Okay. And you can apply it across all history. Right now in Ukraine, they have will. Who's providing all the means? Different countries, right? They're getting assistance, right? They need assistance. They're providing the will. Well, in this case, the South is going to need to attack the Northern will, because the North has all the resources.
Right.
If you're strategizing the Confederate side to win independence, are you going to attack the resources of the North? That's insanity. You have to attack the will of the North. Lee refers to it as Northern War weariness.
Yeah.
Okay, Northern War weariness. And it's real. We look back on it now and say, that would have never happened. But you have Lincoln arresting Clement Vallandigham for a speech in January of 63. The Democratic presidential platform is coalescing to anti-war. The war is a mistake, negotiated peace. So there's going to be an election in 64. Their platforms are already forming. Attack the will of the North. Take the war into the North, win a decisive victory. And what's the aim of it? It's to break the will of the North to continue to fight. The only way the South's going to win this war is if the North can quit. If they'll quit, if they get tired of the cost in blood and treasure ever getting higher. So steward your resources and then try and make it a protracted war. Wear them down. And so the whole weight of the war, I like to say, is on Lee in this effort. He's not coming north to win a battle. He's coming north to win the war.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's important to remember, because then as we get into the campaign and we get to Gettysburg, you can never lose sight that this is not just a blinders of what I'm going to do about July 3rd or July 2nd. It's the bigger pictures on the guy. He's making decisions based on what's at stake. And
we think about it as he came up here to fight the Gettysburg battle, but he didn't.
No.
He had no idea of it, and it happened. But he has a much bigger picture in mind.
Right.
And then this kind of sidetrack that.
Right. Victory is critical. It's key, but you have all the other campaigns, goals, which is supply, clear the valley of Union occupation, that's supply, gather supplies. You have all these subplot, but sub-campaign goals. But the ultimate goal is win.
Right.
And win somewhere in Northern Territory that really sends a heavy message. Right. That's what the whole capture of Harrisburg was going to be about.
Sure.
Headlines.
Right.
Those are the negative headlines that Lee wants to create. Right. And so I just wanted to set that up because we have to put ourselves in their shoes and everything that they're thinking about what's important to them now, as we're going to start looking at the factors, the critical thinking that goes into the decisions and what they're doing. And then what, because that's the weight on the decision. So now Meade as an Army commander doesn't come on the scene till the end of June. So we're focusing now on Lee in May. Right.
So I'm assuming we're going to start with the Battle of Chancellorsville.
It already happened when so it's over. He meets with Jefferson Day. The decision.
So we're past. Okay,
so the
battle's
decision
done.
of this campaign puts the weight of what the campaign's about.
Okay, so
once the decision was made to march the Army of Northern Virginia northward, that's its purpose, right?
And
that's what's at stake.
The victory at Chancellorsville is what results in him saying, we got to do this. But so okay. So I've always felt like the implication was he has this, unbelievable against all odds victory at Chancellorsville. And so then he goes, hey, we're on a roll. Let's go north. And Davis is like, yeah, man, go for it. But that's not how it goes at all.
In fact, Lee is so... it was after Fredericksburg that he said, I am much depressed. Mm-hmm. But he is livid at the Battle of Chancellorsville when the Army of the Potomac slips away across the river. Lee will call these victories hollow victories. They meant nothing.
Right.
He loses these commanders. He's going to lose Stonewall Jackson. And for what? Zero. They are no closer to independence.
Right.
Through what he calls hollow victories.
Yeah, but it's what's interesting though is that they're hollow victories to Lee, but to the North they're pretty heavy defeats, and the people back home, the politicians and everybody, like
right.
it's ugly business for everybody.
Right.
And I'm but while they're hollow victories to Lee, they're victories, and the people at home are cheering him out. They're not hollow victories to them. Right. We're getting a little bit closer to this independence. Whereas Lee, who's out there, he's like, we're not.
So nothing was gained.
We're not. Yeah.
He'll think nothing is gained because he's using resources. He's losing men in these victories. And they've got an equation going that they could win every battle and lose the war. Doesn't sound real logical, right?
No, it doesn't.
But you could win every battle and lose the war because you're out of.
Sure.
It's all exhausted.
Well,
you don't have anything left.
I mean, didn't we in the Revolution like either lose or have a draw on most of our battles, but we still ended up winning the war? You know, because it's not about the battles. It's not a season of football or basketball. Like there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, the British
than just winning games.
Yeah, and the British get tired of it.
Yeah,
and they've got to deal with the logistics of getting it across the water.
Right.
And they get tired of it. And when the French step in, well.
For once, they did something right, those French, right?
That's not, yeah.
So,
but it's the same equation.
Yeah.
Power of resistance equals will times means, and you got to look at what that equation. And the multiplication is important because if will or means go to zero, your power of resistance is zero.
So Lee's means are pretty meager compared to, at that time, Hooker's or, the North.
The North, yeah.
And so part of the reason he has to come up here is to get more means to keep the bellies full and to keep the horses harnessed and everything else, right?
So that's a campaign goal, is the means, is to gather the supplies, get out of Virginia. So getting both armies out of Virginia will help. Clear the valley, that'll help with means. And what you gather in Pennsylvania. That all helps with all the means.
You mentioned getting both armies out of Virginia. And we don't really get deeply into this on this show, but maybe we should now. Talk about Virginia at this time. And specifically, what a barren wasteland it is from 2 years of war. Back and forth between. It's just this, corridor between DC and Richmond and out into the valley there, but like there's nothing. The trees, hillsides are denuded of woods and the fields aren't really full of grass. Whatever is able to grow, whoever is able to bring a crop to yield, he's lucky. But it's immediately gobbled up by it needs to go to the army or whatever.
Correct.
So get into like that. So paint the picture of what life is like in Virginia that makes Lee say, "Let's go to Pennsylvania."
Let's get out of here to give these people a break. A good example that I know of is from working with the Brandy Station Culpeper Battlefield Tours and the Brandy Station Battlefield that Mike is also
the Great Six Questions Lens.
Is a part of. We're getting ready for June 7th commemoration, by the way.
Are you going to come down? That's fine. This will probably come out well after. But are you going to come down on June 21st, which obviously this will come out after that too, because Mike and Tracy are going to do one of our Get Out of the Car tours.
Oh.
And you should come down and see Mike do his first large group of it's called, we're calling it 6Q and the Bear. That's what we're calling the tour.
Cool.
Yeah. You'll have to come down.
Yeah, I'll have to come down for that. So Culpeper County. Population, 1860, 13,000 people.
The whole county.
The whole county, Culpeper, 13,000, 6,000 white, free white, 7,000 enslaved blacks. By 1863, less than 1,000 population.
Oh my God.
They're gone. The
fled?
The free whites have left, and then once they left, and you've got a Union Army moving through, they're not formally emancipated, but the slave population has left, right?
So who's left then? Those 1,000 people, who are they? Old people or?
You have certain enslaved people who just have a comfort and a level of, I'm not leaving.
Yeah. Right.
So you get an overseer and you're still working a little bit of the farm. It all depends on the situation. But I think that's a great example of that. A lot of Virginia where this has been moving through, and Culpeper County is the most fought over, moved over, county in the country during the Civil War. There you have it. It's a barren wasteland and evacuated. Basically,
is it
population has left?
So I would imagine then that with going from 13,000 to 1,000 people, that there's probably a lot of homes that the armies could use.
Correct.
Right.
So
it's become the Army's county.
When the Army of the
in charge.
Potomac moves back in there in the winter of 63 into 64 prior to the Overland Campaign, George Meade's headquarters, and there are all these Corps headquarters all around in Culpeper County. A lot of that is unoccupied riverfront plantation mansions.
Oh, really? That's nice. So they're getting some pretty nice places to stay.
Yeah, and to the point where the Union Railroad has to haul in firewood.
So really? Because everything's just been but that's what I'm trying to.
It's been camped on,
right?
Marched over. Moved
that's the
through.
Picture I'm trying to paint.
Yeah,
is
they
like
actually
Virginia,
have to haul in firewood.
You go to Culpeper County, you go to anywhere in Virginia today, except for like the very northern part of Virginia that's been completely developed and is horrible. But all the pretty parts that are still pretty, they're pretty. They've got a lot of trees, but those trees were gone in the Civil War. So if you are to go down, say, Route 29 in Virginia, and you look at these beautiful fields, and the green was not like that at all during this time.
Right.
And I'm looking at the map here now, and it looks like Culpeper is almost dead center between Washington and Richmond, but just a little to the west.
Yeah, so
it sounds strategic to me.
Yeah, so you have the Rappahannock on the east of Culpeper County, the Rapidan on the south, and you have the Orange and Alexandria Railroad from Alexandria, Washington, D.C., comes right across at Rappahannock Station. Today it's known as Remington. And then it curves south through Culpeper and south toward Orange. That rail line is used on numerous campaigns by both armies. The Union Army of the Potomac is using it in the northern section coming out of D.C., and the Southern Army, Lee, is using it coming out of Orange.
Okay.
And so when Lee is stepping off for the Gettysburg campaign and he moves his army away from the banks of the Rappahannock, he stages in Culpeper County. If you look at the railroad network, he moves from one supply base logistically at Fredericksburg on the RF&P, so that's the Richmond-Fredericksburg-Potomac line, and moves over. Why would he stage here? Because now he's on the Orange and Alexandria.
Okay.
Okay, and that's where Jeb Stuart's cavalry was staging because their horses had some pasture lands to graze. See, it's all about logistics, and that's why the grand reviews happen on June 6th and June 8th, and because Stuart's cavalry is gathering there because they want Lee needs to send the horse flesh to somewhere where they can at least graze. And so that's going to be their stepping off point then into the Shenandoah Valley to go north.
Yet they could have, it's interesting that they're fighting really along the Route 29 corridor because you have 95 right there. I don't know why they wouldn't have been using that.
I often say if they would have taken Interstate 81.
Yeah. Oh, that too. Straight
much
up.
quicker.
Yeah.
Much quicker.
A lot easier than all those back roads.
Right.
Okay, so Lee's got to leave this area here. There's nothing for them to eat in the immediate area. There is farmland more in the valley that is still producing, but he's got to give them.
Yeah, and if you think about it, if you move out in early June and you can clear this whole region, what crops are growing? Wheat would be harvested in early July. You're getting an opportunity for these crops to be harvested and be in Confederate hands.
Right. And
you mentioned it before, the imposition of like a tax, a certain percentage of all of this needs to go to the Confederate war.
Sure,
right?
Sure. So when Lee meets with Davis about doing this, it's not a resounding yes that he gets. No. He has to do some arm twisting. What are the desires of Davis and some of his cabinet members at this point when Lee comes to them?
Well, one of the things is they're very concerned about losing the Mississippi River, and so you got Lincoln's quote that the key is Vicksburg.
Yeah,
and the control of the Mississippi, and it's by the account that, as I understand it, Jefferson Davis is concerned about that as well. So he's got this overriding concern that we need to relieve this situation in Vicksburg. The whole thought that the Gettysburg campaign would draw Union resources away from that, I think that's a little thin, in my opinion. You know,
away from Vicksburg.
Away from Vicksburg.
It's a little far.
That's a little bit.
But although in September, Longstreet is going to go down to Chickamauga. And that's not close. You know,
it's not.
No. So I mean, it's not far fetched.
But the numbers being what they are, does the Army of the Potomac need help? That would be that would be the implication you're talking about.
That the Army of the Potomac needs help?
Yeah, that Lee's Army of Northern Virginia would invade Pennsylvania, and it's such a threat that the Army of the Potomac can't handle it.
Right.
And so you need part of Grant's forces to pull away from Vicksburg siege lines to help.
Right.
You already have a 15 to 20,000 numerical advantage.
Well, and not only that, but there's also the Middle District in the Valley, which of course they destroy. But still, before he destroys them, there's troops there. There's plenty of troops to defend the North.
Yeah.
Or D.C. or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, so I guess
I think the argument's just pretty thin that Lee and Jefferson Davis truly believed that a march into Pennsylvania would draw resources from the Mississippi River.
So where does that come from, that idea? Does that come from them, or is that historians speculating?
I do not know. I don't myself feel that those two professionals would truly believe that would happen.
From what I know, I'm by no means a Lee scholar, but from what I know of Lee, that sounds too fanciful for him to entertain.
The only thing that I think it would enter into it is if Lee is able to utterly destroy the Army of the Potomac in a decisive battle.
Yeah. On Northern soil.
Then you may create enough of a military emergency, but you have to decisively destroy the Army. Not just beat them in a battle, but destroy them in such a way that there is such an urgent emergency concern for the safety of Washington that you need to be loading military resources on rail cars to get them east.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I think it wouldn't just be the movement, but it would have to be the result of the movement. Could potentially do that. That would be the only angle I would believe that would play out.
So, okay. Now, how does Lee finally convince? Because didn't somebody want to send some of Lee's army to Vicksburg as well?
Longstreet. Yeah. Separate a corps, say Longstreet, and send them out west to threaten the siege lines, Grant's lines from the west, which is what Joe Johnson ought to have been doing. Mm-hmm. And you can look into that, and didn't do a very good job of it. Right.
Okay.
But that was the thinking that they then replicate, to your point, in September of 63, they do that to Chickamauga.
Right.
They send Longstreet out there. And so they pull that off. So that wasn't a new idea for September of 63. They were thinking about that in May of 63. And Lee, and they debate this, I believe, over 2 or 3 days. They have multiple meetings. Secretary of War Seddon, at some point Longstreet comes in there, and there's all this little nuance about them asking him his opinion of what he thinks, but ultimately they make a decision that let's go with the campaign idea. Keep the Army of Northern Virginia all together. One of Jefferson Davis's concerns was, if you march away, wouldn't the Union Army then have an open path to us in the capital?
Right.
And Lee's point is, no, they won't do that. They're going to be more concerned about their they will pursue us.
Yeah.
And this is where you get that Micah Jenkins course, the 2 brigades that ought to have been Pickett that are being held, and then these multiple dispatches from Lee on the march northward. Hey, they're coming. You going to send those guys now? Mm-hmm. Yes, they're following us. You going to send me that help now?
Right.
Because that was the whole writing the insurance policy that, yeah, but what if they don't pursue you?
Right.
They're going to come our way. And what Hooker wanted to do, once Hooker knew the Army of Northern Virginia was marching away, one of his first inclinations was, I can take Richmond.
Right.
And what did Lincoln have to tell him?
Like,
no.
Do not do that.
That is not your object.
Right.
Your object is Lee's army.
Yeah.
And so Lee played the card. The cards were played the way Lee thought that they would happen, not some of the concerns that Jefferson Davis had.
So one of Lee's leadership qualities is this ability to predict what the enemy is going to do, knowing his enemy.
Right, knowing his enemy,
Yeah.
knowing the political climate. One of the things about Robert E. Lee that they say is he read every Northern newspaper he could get his hands on.
Yeah.
And that's all about knowing that political climate, knowing your enemy, and keeping tabs on it, because then you're able to better predict or understand what are the background political pressures that are going to be on my opponent.
So he's also not only thought of as he is thought of as a great military general, but also he's a political
absolutely.
guy too.
He has to understand the political landscape.
Right.
And he's not alone. He knows he has to answer to a president. So does the commander of the Army of the Potomac.
Right.
And so you've got this dynamic that you are the military might of a political objective. In their case, independence. Right. Mm-hmm. War is a political objective with a political purpose. And in their case, it was independence.
I think I remember reading somewhere that Lee had written, I don't remember if it was in a letter to Davis or in a letter to someone, but that to his mind, it was either invade or sit around Richmond and just await the inevitable, which would have been defeat, because they didn't have the supplies they needed.
No,
they were not in good. They won at Chancellorsville,
right,
but they weren't in good shape.
No, go
ahead?
Why is Longstreet not at Chancellorsville?
Right, because they're getting food and other supplies.
Virginia.
Yeah, in Southern Virginia.
Why did he have to separate his army in such a way that they were so far away that they could not respond to the movement?
Yeah, because they're in bad shape.
They're in bad shape, and they had to do that because you need to get away from me because we don't have enough to eat here, and your horses need to get away.
Sure.
There's scholarship on the fact that his horses were getting in so poor shape, they were starting to worry that they would be able to move the army.
I read somewhere that the horses were in such bad shape that they were riding the people.
Is that right? Yeah. Save a horse, ride a cowboy.
Ride a cowboy.
Ride a cowboy.
Oh, that's a good way to. That's a good pun on that. Yeah.
Right.
So, pardon me. So I think that's really important to get into somebody's head, though. That Lee, he's got a desperate situation.
Yep.
And I don't know how many people in a desperate situation. Well, speaking for myself, if I'm in a desperate situation, more times than not, I crush under the pressure of that situation. I look at all that I don't have and I go, I can't do anything. And Lee, on the other hand, he looks at all he doesn't have and he goes, but here's what I do have, and let's do something big with it.
Right.
Right. So that he's an ambitious and ballsy or audacious leader. He's willing to take a risk
because
when he doesn't have much to risk.
But he knows he has to.
He has no choice.
Right, he has no choice. He has to take a risk.
I often though it's a shame. It's just on a human level, it's sad that he didn't just encircle Richmond and await the inevitable and end that war sooner if it would have gone that way.
And when you fast forward to the Overland Campaign and Grant's applying that relentless pressure, Lee will say, if we fall back and it becomes a siege, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
He knew that in 63, that if this continues to play out in this defensive manner where we're in this defensive posture and we're holding off the enemy, and so you win Fredericksburg, you win Chancellorsville, and he will write his wife and say, I am much depressed. It is one of the greatest lopsided victories in their history is Fredericksburg.
Yeah.
I'm much depressed. Really, nothing has been gained. Those people will continue to get more people, more soldiers, and more resources, and we'll be no closer to achieving our policy objective than we were. Nothing. They're just depleting my resources by me winning.
Yeah.
And so...
Yeah. Right. I'm winning, but I'm not gaining.
I'm not gaining anything. I'm in this defensive posture. And Lee's worried that we will not be able to husband our resources and make this last long enough that this war of exhaustion to break the willingness of the North to continue to invest and to get to this presidential election, that they'll be able to make it. So they need an artificial stimulant. They need to accelerate this process. And so how do you do that? Let's take a campaign into the North. Let's beat them on their own turf. Winning is one of the things they were very confident about.
Yeah, well, they've proven that.
Let's go let's get a fight.
Yeah.
We'll win.
Right.
Like, no doubt. The men believed in him. He believed in the men. We'll win. We just have to, let's go up there. Let's beat them up there. We'll accomplish all these other side goals, which will clear Virginia, give it a breath, clear the Shenandoah Valley while we're going up. And when we get into Pennsylvania, gathering goodies, right? So we're answering our supply. We'll be able to feed the horses and men during the campaign, win decisively, and accelerate the negative anti-war sentiment in the more North to bring them to a point of negotiation. This is our chance. But if you send part of my army to the West, I don't have the power to do this.
I don't have a huge army to begin with.
So decide, are we just going to sit here and be defensive and try to husband it and separate the resources to go try and accomplish something there? Or do we want to make a bold stroke and try to accelerate this anti-war effort?
So leading.
So this is being debated, right?
Yeah.
So you got to be in the Capitol, like thinking about what are we going to do with the resources we do have and to what end. But this equation is what is weighing on them.
Yeah, right.
Resources and means of will and the power resistance. And so why I wanted to spend time on that is we have to not forget that when we come here and decisions need to be made, right? And we'll get to those. But, I just wanted to set the stage because that's the weight, that's the pressure, that's the reason I'm here is we got to win decisively. And the clock is ticking.
The clock, right.
The clock is ticking.
That's the thing. Like, he doesn't know exactly how long they have where they can continue this, but he knows they can't go on forever.
Right.
So Lee basically then is leading the boss, which I love that phrase, which Tom Vossler and Jeff McCausland wrote a book, Battle Tested, it's called. And then we had them on and we were talking about how Buford leads the boss, right?
Yeah.
Here at Gettysburg.
Yeah.
And I love that because I think, if you're a good boss, if you're the guy at the top, you have got to listen to and trust and weigh very heavily the opinions of the guys who come to you from the field because they are there. Right. And we see now, so at Chancellorsville, we kind of see the opposite of that in the Union Army because there are guys out on the line, the skirmish line, who are coming back saying, there's a whole bunch of Rebs in these woods out on the right. Yeah. Right. And it's like, no. Right. They're always seeing things, and we can't trust them. Our intelligence at Army headquarters says they're retreating or whatever bullshit it was. And we kind of see that here, too, with A.P. Hill and Pettigrew and Heath. Pettigrew just came and laid eyes on Union cavalry and reported to his boss, who didn't see it. And then his boss shows up and he didn't see it, but he just heard from General Lee that they're not even here. They're not anywhere near us. So that can't be part of the Army of the Potomac. And it's that arrogance, that high command arrogance or whatever it is, So but Lee is able to, he politics with his bosses.
What he believes is the best thing to, for the campaign and for the war effort. And
so now at this point, though, Meade is in command of the Fifth Corps.
Right.
6 questions. Lentz has a question here about Meade. He goes, how much did the prior command history of the Army of the Potomac influence Meade's leadership style? So he's in command of the Fifth Corps.
Yep.
He's been under God knows how many generals, 500, something like that, in command of the Army of the Potomac by this point. He's seen them all, good, bad, indifferent.
Yep.
And it has to somehow not weigh on him, but it make an impact on him.
It affects him.
That he's going to bring here to Gettysburg.
I believe it affects him, and that's a great segue. So let's talk about Meade a little bit.
All right.
Because Meade's going to take command of the Army of the Potomac on June 28th, very early morning hours. But let's talk a little bit about some of that background. So he fights the Battle of Fredericksburg as division commander.
Right. Does well.
Yeah, he's the only guy that breaks through, right? He's not supported. We could psychoanalyze that for a little bit, but he's a major general. And in the wake of the Fredericksburg battle, Dan Butterfield is in command of the Fifth Corp. Butterfield has a Fifth Corp. He's not a major general. And so Meade brings the question up, excuse me, only major general, still a division, you got a non-major general in charge of the Fifth Corps. Okay, that's how Meade gets the Fifth Corps.
I didn't know that.
Later when we get the dynamics of Butterfield Meade, some of it I've always thought is Butterfield a little sore about the fact that you had to speak up and got me kicked off the Fifth Corps deal? Because,
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, because he rose to that with the...
I mean, even though Meade's right.
He's right.
So Butterfield's a brigadier general and he's in command of a corps?
Yeah, he ranks him.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Well, and Butterfield rose to that because Butterfield was in the Fifth Corps, and it's Porter, right? Fitzjohn Porter.
I think so.
That whole
I'm
saga.
sketchy on that era.
He got relieved in that whole second Manassas deal.
Yeah.
Well, Butterfield being at the time senior in the Fifth Corps, that's how he got it. It's kind of more of a battlefield scenario than it was a. So does that mean around and get somebody? But after the Battle of Fredericksburg, the questions raised then is, wait a minute.
What about me?
What's going on?
What am I, chopped liver?
Yeah, what's going on here? And the answer, you're right. And so they put Meade in charge of the Fifth Corps. So you've got that dynamic, and then you go to Chancellorsville, and Meade is in charge of the Fifth Corps. And when Meade crosses the river and gets to the Chancellorsville intersection, and I think this is in Stephen Sears' book, and I'm sure it's in some other accounts. He dances a jig. We got him. By God, Hooker got him. Like, we stole a march on Lee, and we have Chancellorsville. We're in his rear. All we have to do is whip him.
Yeah,
because we got him on two fronts. Your campaign plan worked, and then he goes from elation to absolute disappointment.
Sure.
Because Hooker loses his nerve and doesn't push out of the wilderness area to get clear of that. Like you had him, and now you lost him.
Frustrating battle to read about.
Yeah, and so you have that, and then so when you think about these experiences, and then Meade is involved in a council of war that Hooker calls on I think May 3rd, right? Because the flank attack is May 2nd, I think, and where the generals all say fight. Stay and fight. Mm-hmm. And Hooker counters the consensus of the Council of War and withdraws across the river. And leaves the battlefield. Even after they had been flanked, They had a horseshoe-style line and entrenchments, and still were a larger body of troops. Lee finally makes that connection from his western flanking attack, but he's lost Stonewall, of course, and everything. And the Council of War there said, no, don't give it up.
Right.
We can still beat them.
Right.
And no, Hooker, and they withdraw. They retreat across the river.
So the
you have you asked everybody's opinion, and everybody's opinion was such that, and you ignored it.
Yeah. So the army's willing to fight. The commander's not willing to fight.
You asked. We all said, and you still did what you did. And Meade will say of Hooker that Meade, he thinks highly of Hooker. In letters to his wife, he'll say that Hooker's a good and valiant soldier. And more or less, he's hanging around with the wrong people. In other words, they're having a bad influence on him. That I really think he's a good leader. And if you think about it, Meade worked under Hooker. Who's got First Corps at Antietam? Hooker.
Yeah.
Meade's a division commander under Hooker.
Yeah.
They have worked together before. They have history and seeming good history. And Meade thinks highly of Hooker, but he's disappointed in some of the things that Hooker has done. And he's basically saying, he's got the wrong people in his ear. And, you look back on it and I think one of the people he might be referring to is Dan Sickles.
Okay.
And his chief of staff, Dan Butterfield, maybe, So you look at...
Dan Butterfield.
It's for Alicia.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of the backdrop and the experience, I think, that then we have to play forward, that as the Army of the Potomac's marching northward and you get to Frederick, Maryland, and you have the whole thing, Hooker wanting Harper's Ferry, and that's interesting. He's told you can't have Harper's Ferry. He gets on a train and goes to Harper's Ferry and inspects it and basically thumbs his nose at the boss and said, I'm here. Mm-hmm. And there's absolutely no value in the 10,000 soldiers who are here. And they could have secured what resources we had here and been on the road yesterday. If I'm not going to be supported, then I respectfully ask for another assignment.
Lincoln's like, sayonara.
And that telegram came from Harper's Ferry.
Yeah.
Now, if you're the boss and you've already been told that you're not getting Harper's Ferry, and I get a telegram from Harper's Ferry, that doesn't go over real good.
No.
I thought I told you.
Yeah.
Now, what are you doing over there?
You're doing this to me. You're thumbing your nose at me, and
What are you doing over there when I told you not, and then you send this. So he does this resignation, this request for another assignment. And the very next day.
Do you think that was a bluff that Lincoln called?
I think Hooker did it in frustration.
Oh, I'm certain he did. But do you think it was I think we've all, when we were children, would do something like that. It's like, well, fine, if you're not going to do this, then I'm just going to leave.
Then I'll quit. Yeah,
then
I'm going to run away.
And then people go, okay,
go ahead.
But it's because we want them to beg us to stay.
Stay, right.
So
but you're not really going to leave.
Or we're going to get our way.
Yeah.
So to me, that's his way of saying, this is what I want. Give it to me or I'm done. And then he's expecting Lincoln to go, okay, fine. Because it's an emergency situation.
Right.
And instead Lincoln goes, go F yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take your resignation.
Yeah.
George Meade, you're in charge.
Meanwhile, we've already been, evaluating candidates, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've got somebody waiting in the wings.
We've already been looking through resumes. Yeah.
You're not so great, F.J. Hooker.
Yeah. Yeah. So when Colonel James Hardee is bringing the War Department order from the War Department to put Meade to order Meade to take command, I always like the fact that Jeb Stuart's presence behind Union lines between Union, Army of the Potomac, and Washington plays a role in this. Hardee's in civilian clothes. Mm-hmm. That's why.
So it doesn't get captured.
Right. So he's in civilian clothes.
Right.
He's not an officer of the War Department. And he's told, you make sure you destroy those orders if you're captured. Because they know when he is sent out that the enemy's cavalry is operating in that space. That's why he's in civilian clothes. He's given money to get a ride once he gets to Frederick, because you're going to have to find out where the Fifth Corps is when you get there. You're probably going to need to get an Uber. And so you need to carry some cash. So they got to give him cash to buy a hack driver to take him, because you're not taking your horse.
Right.
You're out of uniform. You've got the orders. And then who's on the train with him? Dan Sickles and James Smith of Smith's Battery.
Down at Devil's Den.
Down at Devil's Den. They're both on the train. I like all these ironies, because we have the account that each knows they're on the train. Okay? Mm-hmm. When you get to the train station in Frederick and you depart, where does Dan Sickles need to go first when you come out of convalescence and you return to the Army?
You got to go to the Army.
You got to go to headquarters, right? And say, I'm back to take command of the Third Corps. So you report in. Hey, by the way, Hardee was on the train in civilian clothes. Did he come here? At headquarters? And Hooker, no, they know who Hardee is and who he works for.
Okay.
He was on the train. So, I don't know if you've heard the story.
What are you implying?
I'm implying that Hooker knows he's being relieved.
Oh, gotcha.
Where'd Hardee go? He's going to the guy who's going to replace you first.
So he's not going to Army headquarters. He's going to Fifth Corps headquarters.
Correct. And they don't know where he headed. But Sickles is at HQ before Hardee's at HQ. Mm-hmm. So as the story goes, when Meade and Hardee show up later together, Hooker knows I'm relieved. Because he knows what he sent them yesterday.
Was, right.
I respect another assignment, right?
And then if they're seeing Hardee, gotcha.
The only thing Hooker wouldn't have known is who Hardee's going to show up with. Is it going to be John Reynolds? Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Henry Slocum? But I think there's this.
Must have been a surprise when it was
There's some
Meade.
pretty cool intrigue, because if Sickles went to headquarters and said, I saw Hardee on the train, and he didn't come to this headquarters, where did he go?
Right.
Okay, he'll be around in a bit, right? Okay, so Hardee then he has to ask soldiers in the street. The account is, the provost marshal wasn't doing her job. The soldiers are, running amok in Frederick. He goes and finds Fifth Corps headquarters just a few miles south of Frederick at Arcadia, wakes him up, 4 o'clock in the morning, gives him his orders. Meade tries to relent. No, it should be John Reynolds, said, this isn't a suggestion. These are your orders. Meade finally comes to grips with it. Said, okay, let's go to Hooker's headquarters now.
And they go to Hooker's headquarters, and Hooker is quite congenial. He's not holding a grudge. I would imagine probably he's a little relieved.
And remember that
to be relieved.
Meade and Hooker, seemingly, and from what I've read, they have a good relationship. Mm-hmm. Okay, because they've worked together, right. and Meade has said complimentary things about Hooker. But he's also been critical of Hooker's behavior and the things that he's done that has disappointed Meade, and so that's what.
Wait, didn't they have a big blow up? Wasn't there a big fight with them?
It's over Chancellorsville.
Yeah. And Meade went in and just cursed him and screamed at him and everything. And it was, I think was it Webb or Gibbon who witnessed it and started to slip out of the tent because he didn't want to be a witness at a court martial.
Well, and as the story goes, when they first wake him, Meade's first thought is that he's under arrest
for this.
Then as soon as you're waking up and you have these first thoughts, and then you're starting to get your cognitive thinking, his response to Hardee was, "My conscience is clear. I've wronged no man."
Right.
And that's when Hardee responds is, "No, General, that's not it.
Right.
It's worse.
It's worse. You're in charge of the Army.
You've been promoted."
Yeah.
Right. But why was Meade thinking that? It's because he's had he's put forth some critical thoughts on Hooker. But I don't want people to think that like they've been long-standing enemies.
Yeah.
No, Meade has been disappointed in things that Hooker has done. Okay.
Sure.
But he still highly respects the guy and said he's a good commander.
Hooker wasn't.
He's hanging around with the wrong people. He's making the wrong decisions. Like he's not listening to the right counsel, counsel of war, right? And he's got this frustration about Hooker. And so when they go to headquarters, it's not like these guys are mortal enemies to each other. So, I mean, Hooker's going to, okay, let's sit down. Let's go over where we are, right?
So, but I believe I remember reading that Meade wasn't very enlightened by the information that Hooker shared because there wasn't really a plan.
So
explain what he inherits.
So Hooker, Butterfield, Hardee, and Meade, at least, are going over the position of the Army and what Hooker's intelligence is. So what do we know and where are we? Right? That's what you got to go over for Meade. And during this meeting, Meade reacts to the fact that the Army of the Potomac is spread out as far as they are. So Reynolds is all the way to the west toward Middletown, Maryland, and Slocum is all the way out to the east, right? So you've got this
big
great gap.
Yeah.
And Meade reacts to it. I think this is important. Meade reacts to it like just a reaction, and it insults Hooker. So during this meeting, when it is divulged where the other corps are, Meade reacts in a negative way, like surprised, like what? And Hooker takes it as an insult. And Meade realizes it. And Meade makes a statement along the lines of, I'm sorry, treat me as a guest until you hand over the command. And so he immediately, says, hey, realizes what he did.
Right.
And then Hooker, and they said it goes on from there then.
Okay.
But that Meade smooths it over by that. But I think that's very telling. What does that tell us? That Meade, as a Fifth Corps commander, does not know where the other corps are.
Right.
That's that reactionary, that he didn't even have time to think about it, and he reacted in some negative way without thinking, and then said, I apologize, I apologize, treat me as a guest. But what that tells us is Hooker's style was he's not collaborating. If Meade doesn't know where the other corps are we going to make the assumption that he's the only one in the dark?
No, they're all in the dark. They have to.
You would think they all don't know where the other ones are, unless they're close enough that they're.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't you put out, like, if I'm a corps commander, wouldn't I put out feelers in either way to find the next command and make contact in case we need each other?
You probably know the ones that are near you.
Okay. But you don't know where everybody is.
But you don't know where all the other ones are. So you probably know some, but you don't know all of them, right? So if Meade didn't know the whole picture, I'm gonna make the assumption that the rest of them don't know the whole picture, right? Okay. So you get this change in command. And you've got this background now, because Mike's question is, what's all the background of Meade and how's that going to play out? So that was a perfect segue to this. So they've got this meeting. You're surprised. You don't know where everybody else is. And Hooker's going to relinquish command and then get on a train, and Hardee will send a message back to the Secretary of War. The command change. I've delivered the message. The change in command has occurred. Pretty good. And he's on his way to report back to War Department for another assignment. So it went okay, kind of a thing. It's a very short. But do you think? I know this isn't about Hooker this episode, but what do you think Hooker's state of mind is at this point? Like, do you think he's overwhelmed and kind of in over his head? Do you think he campaigned for the wrong job when he got that job? I don't.
And he's realizing it, but he's stuck.
what he does after, I think, helps answer that question. He's successful out west.
Yeah. And maybe he just didn't like the eastern landscape.
Well, I think he got frustrated. I think, to your point, I think he put that frustrated. Then if I don't have the trust and I am not given the resources of an enemy, a superior enemy in my front, then I request another assignment. Yeah. I think that's a frustrated, maybe it's a bluff. He had a good campaign at Chancellorsville. He made the right moves. He executed on it, and then just didn't. You know what I mean? Yeah. Even to Meade, Meade was like, when they got to the Chancellorsville intersection, we had him. Yeah, we got him. We stole March on Lee. We've got him where we want him. And then Hooker started to lose his nerve, and then didn't execute it all out. I think Hooker's pretty good, actually. And look at all the things Hooker did and Butterfield did with structured leave, building morale.
Yeah, I mean, right.
Core symbols.
He did a lot of good stuff for the organization and the morale of the Army. Absolutely.
He really built them back up after Fredericksburg and Ambrosburg.
So do you think when Hooker goes out west, does he ever command an army again, or is he always a corps commander?
Well, he's got... doesn't he end up with the 11th and 12th Corps, and it's called an army?
I don't know enough about the West.
Yeah.
6 questions would know. He knows everything.
And then it's the 20th Corps or something like that.
So he commanded, okay.
Because they put the 11th and the 12th together, I think, and then they call it the 20th.
Yeah. So.
But then he's on the drive on Atlanta, the March to the Sea. He's with Sherman that whole time.
But he's under someone is what I was getting at. Like whether he's a corps commander or an army commander and, the size or whatever. But like the point is that he's not the one in charge of the strategy. He's not the one in charge of where everybody goes. He just has to follow the order and take care of his men and their role in the whole plan. Yeah. So he's under Sherman at that point. Yeah. So like maybe he thought he wanted to be the army commander, but then it takes being the army commander to realize that you might not actually have what it takes to be an army commander. I get where you're going. That's where I'm going.
He never will be like an independent army commander.
Right.
So I was dealing with the nuance that under Sherman there is Army of the Cumberland, Army of the Tennessee, like Sherman is commanding. They're smaller armies, but they're actually called armies.
Right. They're treated like armies, but they're really like the size of corps, aren't they?
I think they're a little bit bigger than that.
Are they? I thought he only had like a total of 80,000 men.
But Sherman is a, what do they call it, area. He's got everything to the west, so he has like command of everything. That's why he can order around multiple armies.
Gotcha.
And those armies have commanders. I just don't know in all of that if Hooker ever actually has a title of commander of the Army of the Tennessee. Yeah. But to your point, it doesn't matter because they're under the direct guidance of Sherman.
Yeah. Okay. 6 questions must have left the show because he hasn't answered that.
I was going to say he hasn't.
He would know it if anybody knows it. Yeah, I don't know anything about the West,
but I think Hooker serves admirably. I think.
Yeah, I think he just. I just think he wasn't right for the part of Army Commander of the Army of the Potomac. I mean, that's a big army.
Yeah. So when Meade takes command, while we're on Meade,
okay,
I want to point out something. So let's go to Meade's first order. So Meade takes command. He's going to send response back to Halleck saying the order placing me in command has been received. He's going to announce to the Army of the Potomac that he's taking command. And then his directive order will be June 28th. Headquarters Army of the Potomac. The Army will march tomorrow as follows. And I won't read the whole thing. But this is for the next day. 4 a.m., 1st Corps, under Reynolds. You will go from here to there. 4 a.m., 11th Corps. You will go under Howard. We'll go from here to there. 4 a.m., 12th Corps. You'll go here. 2nd Corps, 3rd Corps, 5th Corps, 6th Corps, Reserve Artillery. General Lockwood because he's independent command.
Right.
The engineer and bridge trains will follow the Fifth Corps. Headquarters will move at 8 a.m. and I'm going to move from here to Middleburg, Maryland. We're going to go through Sayersville and Woodsboro, and by 8 a.m. we'll be in Middleburg. Cavalry will do this. Corps commanders will of detached brigades will report. This goes to everybody.
Mm-hmm. So now everybody knows where everybody is. So that's that's the first thing.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So you're surprised at the handover meeting.
Yeah.
And what's the first thing you do is the orders are all in one. When you get this as any commander, you can read exactly where everybody is, where they're going to, and what time you're expected to move, and all this detail, and everybody gets a copy of this.
So that
that's a style.
Yeah.
Where did he get that style? To Mike's point, how's the past affect what I want to do? I didn't much like it when I don't know where everybody's at.
No, exactly, and
so I'm going to fix that.
Yeah, that's
now I'm in command. Let me do the things that I didn't much appreciate when I was in their shoes.
That's that is a good leader. Is you know the problems that subordinates had to the most recent or some previous leader,
right?
And so you don't do, or you do the opposite of what they do because you know it helps the subordinates. Right. 6 Questions finally woke up and he said Hooker was in command of the 20th Corps. Hooker was in line to replace McPherson in command of the Army of the Tennessee, but Sherman promotes Howard to the job. Hooker resigns.
There you go.
So there you go. He takes his ball and goes home quite a bit. Todd Reynolds also says Hooker is like Burnside in 64, right? Kind of an independent corps commander because he ranks the army of the army commander. Yeah. Takes orders from the theater commander, not the army commander.
There you go.
Okay,
very good.
Interesting.
Very good.
Very good. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Muchas gracias.
Yeah. So that gets us going on Meade. Okay.
So now let's maybe accelerate to the battle.
I was going to say, how about let's go back to Lee?
Okay, go back to Lee.
Okay, so we're coming up the valley.
Yeah.
And we've got this whole, I don't know if you've ever heard about this thing with the cavalry before.
Yes, I have.
But the cavalry commander, Jeb Stuart. And so, to me, and where I'm going to go with this is, what the common narrative is Jeb Stuart's ride, and Jeb Stuart screwed up, and Jeb Stuart. If you read all the sequence of all of the communications, Lee to Stuart, Lee to Longstreet, Longstreet to Stuart in the days of June 22nd, and I have them through June 25th. Lee has to own this. Lee has to own this, okay? And I've highlighted just some points here.
Now, why do you say Lee has to own it first?
Because of what I'm going to read to you. Gotcha. This is to Jeb Stuart from Robert E. Lee on June 22nd. I've just received your note. Judge, the efforts of the enemy yesterday were to arrest our progress. That was the fights of Aldie, Middleburg, and Upperville. But that's what he's referring to is the efforts of the enemy yesterday was the fighting. Do you know where he is and what he is doing? I fear he will steal a march on us and get across the Potomac before we are aware. Lee to Stuart, June 22nd. The bosses, do you know where he is and do you know what he is doing? I fear he will steal a march on us and be across the Potomac before we are aware. If you find that he is moving, if you find he is moving northward and that 2 brigades can guard the Blue Ridge and take care of your rear, you can move with the other 3 into Maryland and take position on Ewell's right. Place yourself in communication with him, guard his flank, keep him informed of the enemy's movements, and collect all the supplies you can for the use of the army. Okay, now
and that was the date. What date was that?
June 22nd.
Okay.
Okay, so in your mind, be thinking, okay, June 28th, late day, Lee's going to find out from Harrison through Longstreet, the spy, right? The whole spy thing. So be thinking June 28th, because that's when Lee is going to find out Army of the Potomac's across the Potomac.
So in case there's people who haven't seen the movie or don't know what you mean by Harrison, they're new to this
spy,
and everything.
yeah.
So it's just real quick, just give the bullet point.
Okay, so Harrison is a spy paid in gold by James Longstreet to scout, to get behind Union lines, be in their midst, get newspapers, find out information that maybe that you wouldn't normally just get with military. This is military intelligence type stuff, covert type efforts. Lee doesn't like this.
Right.
That's not the way Lee plays war, right? Lee doesn't like spies and things like that. He's regular army, trust regulars type thing. So that's not his thing. So anyway, Longstreet puts this guy out there and says, hey, go out there and then report back to us, anything you find. Well, when he reports back to Longstreet near Chambersburg, then Longstreet takes him to Lee because he's got surprising information. The Army of the Potomac's across the Potomac, concentrated around Frederick, Maryland, and oh, by the way, they've had a change in command. I looked at that whole thing because you see that in the movie, and I'm like, could that be possible? If you change command in Frederick, even 7, 8 a.m., let's say the bustle in the news is starting to spread.
Yeah.
Provost Marshal wasn't taking care of the street, so it could be getting out there that, hey, things have changed command. I did how fast can a horse at just a normal trot go from Frederick to Chambersburg? Absolutely plausible to travel from Frederick across the South Mountain, be in Chambersburg. If you leave Frederick by 10:30, 11 o'clock, you'll be in Chambersburg by 6.
By trotting.
Just a regular, like the
up
speed
over the mountains
in the regular book. You're not galloping. You're not killing the horse.
Right.
Like with some urgency, like trot here and there, walk.
Right.
Doable. And I'm just guessing times.
So you're talking like nonstop ride.
Like I just wanted to know, is it even plausible?
Did you ride a horse from Frederick to Chambersburg? You should have.
I did not.
Let's do that.
We could do that.
Can we?
The ride. We'll call it the ride.
We'll call it the ride. We'll make a video of it.
But I just wanted to know, could that even be possible? It's possible. You could have heard.
They did it all the time.
You could have heard in Frederick,
but you don't even need to.
Hooker's been relieved.
Yeah, but you don't even need. You're saying
that doesn't even need to be in the newspaper.
Yeah, you're saying that's Harrison.
Harrison could be in Frederick.
Yeah.
Hear the scuttle.
Yeah, and then
Hooker's been relieved and say, okay, they're all here. I need to get to Longstreet.
Right.
I need to go find him. Could that be possible for him to have heard word and get to Chambersburg?
Do we know that he was in Frederick? Or are you just speculating?
I'm speculating.
Because, he could have been anywhere and someone could have come from Frederick. And you know what I mean?
I was just going worst case scenario.
Yeah.
That he's actually in civilian clothes. He's hanging out in Frederick. He gets,
having a drink.
I was just trying to do worst case. Could this even be possible? I was doing it to see could I eliminate this from the story and say that you can't do that?
Right.
And what I found is, no, you could do that. You could do that.
Sure.
So let's just say that. So anyway, that's the backdrop on a spy that Longstreet had employed, shows up in Confederate camp in Chambersburg and says, hey, I've got news. The Army of the Potomac's across the river. They're concentrated in the Frederick area, and this comes as a surprise to Lee. Right? And so that's the whole Jeb Stuart out of contact. I just read you the first communication on, I like that part. I fear he may steal a march on me. Do you know where he is? And he's specifically saying, and get across the Potomac before we are aware. And he's saying this on the 22nd.
Right. His fear becomes truth. So again, Lee is very good at predicting the enemy, even before he knows Well, actually, no. Hooker's still in command on the 22nd.
Hooker's still in command.
So, okay. So he knows F.J. Hooker. So,
and so we have back and forth. We're not going to read through all this stuff, but in one of the, this is to Stuart from Longstreet. Longstreet said, I think your passage of the Potomac by our rear at the present moment will in a measure disclose our plans. You had better not leave us. Therefore, unless you can take the proposed route in the rear of the army. So there's this back and forth, and they're debating this. You can just tell Longstreet, Lee, Stuart, Lee and Stuart, while there's some validity to, there's to be gained by you disconnecting from us, or what's your route to crossing the river and in relation to the Union Army. But what I'm building a case here is Lee is being vague and subjective and discretionary. I think we're going to see this later.
yeah.
Okay. But he's given a very trusted subordinate rope that he can hang himself with, right? I mean, he's given him rope, and there's 100% trust going on here. The communication the next day on June 23rd, in it, Lee writes to Stuart again, if General Hooker's army remains inactive, you can leave 2 brigades to watch him and withdraw with the 3 others, but should he not appear be moving northward, I think you had better withdraw this side of the mountain tomorrow night, cross at Shepherdstown. That's clear over by the Antietam battlefield, by the way. Mm-hmm. Next day, and move over to Fredericktown, which is Fredericksburg. Frederick.
Yeah.
Okay, so in this communication, this is a sentence with 2 of the same statements, which doesn't make any sense to me. And I actually, if you change one letter, and one of the things I want to do is go to the National Archives and find this written, because let me read it to you. If I change not to now.
Go ahead.
If General Hooker's army remains inactive, you can leave 2 brigades to watch him and withdraw with the 3 others. But should he now appear moving northward, I think you better withdraw this side of the mountain tomorrow night, cross at Shepherdstown next day, and move on to Fredericktown. Doesn't that make more sense?
Yeah, it does.
I checked this not in OR. I checked different places thinking, somebody transcribed this.
Right.
Because that not doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
But if you put a now in there, then it reads, if this, then this, but if that, do this.
Then right. Let me see this here. No, I'm gonna parse this now with my searing grammatical skills. Okay, so if General Hooker's army remains inactive, you can leave 2 brigades to watch him and withdraw with the 3 others. So if they remain inactive. But should he not appear to be moving northward, which if he's inactive, he's not.
Right.
He's not doing anything.
Why
he's
are
not
you
moving
restating?
even westward or southward or eastward. He's doing nothing. So, but should he not appear to move, I think you better withdraw to this side of the mountain. So, okay.
Do you see
Should he now appear?
Should he now appear to be moving?
Or what if it was next? Should he next? No, that wouldn't make sense. Should he now appear to be moving northward? I think you had better. Yeah. So you see him moving north. You better get your ass over here. Yeah. Because you're going to get cut off.
You better come back on this side of the mountain, cross the Potomac at Shepherdstown, and then drive toward Frederick.
Yeah.
Because now he's moving north. You better come back toward us, cross the Potomac at Shepherdstown, and then move toward Frederick to continue to scout. That makes more sense to me. I don't know why you would write, if he remains inactive, you can go. If he's not active, well, maybe you better come this way.
Yeah, right.
Well, wait a minute. You're confusing me.
So
You're like just saying the same thing.
That's saying if he's not active, then you can go. Yeah.
But if he's not moving,
but if he's not right,
you better come back.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
I got exactly what you're saying.
Did somebody not read his handwriting correctly, and we are living with this in the OR?
It's been transposed wrong.
Because the OR is a you transcribed the record,
right,
and put it in a book.
Yeah.
Did somebody make a mistake with not should be now?
Or maybe even something else.
I want to get with Wayne.
Yeah.
Hey, Wayne, tell me.
Go find
Let's
this.
go find this down in the official records. I want to see the handwritten.
This would be bigger than when Tim Smith discovered the Antietam Elliott map.
We now have...
Changes everything.
Right.
One letter.
But what we do have here is options. Whether you read it not or now, you have options.
Right.
If this, that, if that, well,
Then this.
I still fear, I fear they may still march. In either case, after crossing the river, you must move on and feel the right of Ewell's troops, collecting information, provisions, etc. All right, so if you take any sequence of maps, okay, this is Godfrey's Gettysburg. You have it in there.
Maps of Gettysburg.
Lena, whatever. Everybody's pretty much in agreement. Jeb Stuart is going to make the decision to go ahead and depart on June 25th, ride to the rear of the Union Army, and then we'll interpose between Army of the Potomac and Washington, D.C. That's why when those orders come out to relieve Hooker on the 28th, Hardee's in civilian clothes because Stuart's already running amok, tearing up the railroad lines. Why do you have to send the orders out in written form?
The telegraph's been cut.
Yeah. Stuart's affecting all of this.
Yeah.
He's already in between. But if you look at these movement maps, on the 25th, 3 of the 7 Union Corps are already across the Potomac River.
Right.
Not quite, but the 25th, the day Stuart begins his ride, 3/7 of the Army of the Potomac have crossed the river. Mm-hmm. On the 26th, all but 1 is across the river. And on the 27th, the date in which Stuart will cross the river, by the way, a little Gettysburg campaign trivia question. What's the last element of either army to cross the Potomac River? Jeb Stuart's 3 brigades.
Yeah, good one.
They're the last ones to cross.
I got that wrong on the guide again.
So if you look at that map, the only red dot, the red dot is the only thing south of the river. Okay, if your boss told me you're worried about them stealing a march and I fear they'll get across the river, how out of touch are you that you're moving behind them? They're all across the river.
Right.
Okay, so my point on this is, by the time he starts his ride, it's too late.
So this is another example of how a discretionary order from Lee screws up a big thing for the Confederates.
See, I'm making my point. This is about leadership style. So you're giving trusted commanders discretionary, and you're being vague about things. Well, this and that, or not, but I kind of fear about this. Well, if you do, then say what you want me to do.
Right. So that's okay. That's interesting, and that's some good food for thought. Why don't we do this? We'll take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back after these words with the rest of Jason's talk here. Be right back.
You can lead a horse to Rome, but you can't make him drink it. Call in and ask a Gettysburg guide. At Digital History Pioneers Foundation, we are about grassroots history on digital platforms. That means we are about podcasters, documentarians, YouTubers, and even TikTokers. All of these creators are out there trying to share their love of history with the public. They don't need ideas, they need funding, both from viewers and corporate donors. DH Pioneer's initial funding focus is on the Civil War era, with a special emphasis on the Addressing Gettysburg podcast. So be a vital part of the unique content Addressing Gettysburg has in store by donating at dhpioneers.com and help bring your love of history to the people. Digital History Pioneers is an IRS Section 501c3 approved charitable corporation that makes any donation tax deductible to the fullest extent of the law.
Hey, buddy. What's got you so down?
Hey, Court. I'm looking for a gift, but I just don't know what to get my Gettys nerd friends and family.
It sounds like we need to have a talk. Come on. You love this place, don't you?
You bet I do. It's my favorite place in the world.
Well, you see, at Addressing Gettysburg, it's our mission to keep these stories alive.
How do we do that?
I'm glad you asked, sport. You see, Gettysburg is the gateway to the most brutal and crucial time in American history, so we interview experts, and our listeners learn with us.
That sounds amazing.
It is. Mike, are you f***ing serious?
What? It's for the commercial.
What benefits do patrons get? You mean besides up to 4 premium episodes per month and Matt being the bee's knees as host? How about early access to special episodes, behind-the-scenes insights, and discounts for ticketed events?
Whoa! None of the other history channels I follow do that for their listeners.
That's because Addressing Gettysburg doesn't take its listeners for granted and really cares about us learning American history.
You know, I should gift my Getty's Nerd friends and family an Addressing Gettysburg Patreon membership.
You see, the answer was right under your nose the entire time.
Make Addressing Gettysburg's Patreon a gift for the Getty's Nerd in your family this holiday season. Addressing Gettysburg wants you to learn about the Civil War with us, and we need your support. We'll run this ad until it gets annoying, and then we'll run it until you become a patron at patreon.com/addressinggettysburg or by scanning the QR code on your screen. Happy holidays.
The hell are we staring at?
No idea.
You're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
Hi, this is Stephen Lunsford, one of Addressing Gettysburg's patrons. It's time to ask a Gettysburg guide. But don't forget to smash that like button, share, and subscribe right now. Here's Matt.
All right, we're back. Thank you for indulging us there on that short break. So, Jason, now let's get to the Battle of Gettysburg, okay?
Yeah, let's get to fighting.
Julio first. It starts off, it's subordinate commanders starting the fight.
Right.
It's not the leader, the head honchos. They're not there yet.
Right.
So go ahead. Get us going. Where do you want to take us?
Lee's not going to be calling the shots. Of course, the contact's going to be made between the two armies, and the fighting's going to build throughout the first day until in the afternoon. The Confederate Army has superior numbers on the field. Lee is there by then. By 1:30 in the afternoon, he's going to get enough of an assessment that it sounds like, just due to circumstances, we're going to have a favorable situation. If you feel you have an opportunity to succeed, you may attack. So he's going to give them latitude, right?
Hold on, Jason. I'm sorry. Can you reach behind that wooden thing? And there's a rounded remote control. It's regular remote, but it's got rounded edges. No, not that one. And then the other one. Yep. Great. Hand me that, please, because that light bar is distracting the hell out of me, and it's reminding me of like a disco orgy or something. So let's. There we go. Back to red. Okay, there it is. Back to red, and wonderful. And we've changed the color balance. Oh my God, the white balance here, ladies and gentlemen. I am so sorry.
That was probably distracting viewers, right? They were seeing that color changing.
All I was thinking was, I couldn't watch it anymore once the color bar changed. That's all I was hearing. The comments, well, it was good and everything, but I couldn't watch it anymore once the color bar changed. It's like, oh, sorry. Sorry, I didn't realize I was making my show for you specifically. Okay. I'm not cutting that out either. You can keep going.
All right. So Lee's going to give them the reins. You may attack. Not going to order an attack or formulate an attack, but you may. They do. They win, driving the Union Army through the town. The Union Army's withdrawn, rallying on Cemetery Hill. When Lee gets an opportunity to see, recognizes the strength of the geographic position of the hill south of town, is going to issue the orders to Ewell, continue to drive through the town and occupy that hill south of town if practicable.
Right.
But do not bring on a general engagement until the other divisions are available. So you're still hanging around with this vague constraint about not bringing on a general engagement. But again, it's. You see the similarity between I fear he will do this, but if you do that. And so you're it's almost like are you confused? What do you want?
It's
what
almost
do
like,
you
right,
want?
like you're telling me too much. Like, think about it, decide what you want to do,
and just
then tell me. But you're giving me too much of your thought process. I don't need that. I mean, maybe I do. Maybe some people do. Maybe some of his subordinates needed it, and others didn't, and so he gave them what they needed.
Yeah.
But so far, it doesn't sound like that. However, in defensively, in the morning of July 1st, he says, "Go ahead, attack." Right? We just said that.
So
in other words,
he allows,
guys,
condones the attack.
I leave it in your hands, boys.
You may attack.
Then when he's on the field, he gets a little more pacific. And he says, "You'll blah, 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 take that hill if practicable." And that's where the vagary comes
without
in.
bringing on a general. Without bringing on a general gate. What is that?
And
what just happened?
Drop that. Yeah, exactly. What that wasn't a general engagement? What was that, a fist fight?
22,000 against 16,000?
Right.
That's not a general engagement?
No, a third of your army is not a general engagement. I guess not. I guess it's a third of the army.
So and one of the things that I find interesting, we talk about on the leadership tours is, did you ever see someone, a subordinate, that was seemingly in command of an aggressive and a self-decision maker, except when the boss comes around, and then all of a sudden you change?
Yeah.
Let's say, so Richard Ewell shows up, you're on top of Oak Hill, you see the situation you're looking at, you got the Union First Corps, and you're on their flank.
Right.
He's going to make a decision on his own. Lee's not present. Commander's intent. Can't pass up this great opportunity, right? He's going to form up and formulate an attack on the flank of the First Corps.
Mm-hmm.
This is that midday failure, right? Good idea, bad execution. That's the way I always like to look at it. But isn't that interesting behavior on Ewell's part? Lee's not around. You do have the no fight orders. Okay, do not bring on a general engagement until the army is concentrated. But you show up at Gettysburg and you're on the flank of a corps, and you're going to attack it. You're not asking permission. You're making a decision because you know Lee would want you to crush him, right?
Right.
If he were here, I got to imagine what you'd want me to do. Then later in the day, when Lee is there, you're given the opportunity to attack. You do. Then Lee's actually communicating orders to you, and they're discretionary. And now you see a guy who's, well, he's got a lot of challenges. He's got a fatigue corps. They're disorganized. They're encumbered by lots of prisoners, 3,000 prisoners. He doesn't have any fresh units, unfamiliar territory, trying to figure out how he would want to attack and take that hill, because by the time he looks at it, there's artillery up there and they're shooting from there, right? So he's got all these things going against him, and the sun's going down. And so, you can defend that he is exuding effort to attack the hill.
Right.
All the way clear up to and past midnight when he's sending a probe up there and they get captured by the 7th Indiana. So he tries. But again, Lee's style here is, I'd like this done if practicable. You as a leader, if something's very important to you, if you feel it's imperative, if you think it's pivotal,
it's an order.
Then it's an order.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have wishy-washiness around it.
Right.
And so this is some of the things we look at is, no matter what you're doing, whatever your business, whatever you think you're going to put your organization or your people to go do, and you believe it's really, really important, in fact, it may be pivotal, you want to be crystal clear, don't you, about...
Sure.
And you want to make sure that we communicate directly, and are you clear? We need that hill, right? So
let me ask you a question then that 6 questions had early on, and I knew it would come in handy now. He said, where the hell is it? How much did health impact the leadership style of both Lee and Meade? Lee with his massive diarrhea issues, and Meade with his lack of sleep. So neither one of these guys, especially by 1863 standards, are spring chickens. Lee is what, 56? and Meade is 47.
Yeah, I think 47, 40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to be 47 in a month, and
you're young.
no,
I'm 56.
really.
I'm 56.
So
I'm
okay,
Lee's age.
so we are Lee and Meade.
Right.
Okay, I feel like I'm 56. You look like you're 45. Son of a bitch. But my point is that what was my point? Oh, yeah. So these guys at that age, or in those days, are not spring chickens. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, this winter, I stopped taking my vitamins. Okay. Because I've been complaining about like not feeling myself for a few years. And so my doctor was like, well, let's check your vitamin levels and stuff. So I stopped taking all my vitamins, but then I kept forgetting to go get the blood test. And so by like end of February, every joint hurt, right? My entire body was a rickety, crickety, crackety old man body. And what was funny was I started taking vitamins again, and it started to go away.
Yeah.
And also something else, which I haven't started talking about yet on the show, but I'm going to wait a little longer just to make sure it's really working. But my point is that I have modern things. You have modern things that we can do. We can eat,
right,
to fight aging.
Right.
They didn't. Right. In fact, they were putting their bodies through hell. That they shouldn't have been doing for their age.
Right.
And so they were, Lee looks like he's 75.
Right.
Right. Meade doesn't look like he's much younger than what what Lee really was. And so, but also now Lee's got like serious health issues. He had angina earlier, right?
He's got a bad ticker.
He's got a bad ticker. I think, didn't he have a really bad cold in April that like, I think he didn't have a really bad cold, and then he had the angina attack and everything, and they think it might be related or something like that. And then now he's coming up here, and I don't know what you want to say, just the old soldier's disease, or he had a batch of bad cherries or whatever, but he's got diarrhea. And I don't know about anybody in this audience who can stand up and say, yes, when I have diarrhea, I can do amazing things. No, you can't. You can't go too far from wherever a bathroom is handy. Yeah. So Lee is now in the field on a horse.
This
in the heat.
This issue actually made Tim Smith's top 10 myths.
Diarrhea.
Lee diarrhea.
How does he know?
So looking at the medical records, that there is documentation from Lee's surgeon that he has got symptoms that today's medical professionals look at and say, yeah, he suffered a heart attack some time ago, and so he's got that issue. He shows fatigue. Well, yeah, if you're not getting very much sleep at all, right? Because we have ample records that I don't know when these people sleep, because they're up at 3 a.m. still in meetings, and you're not sleeping throughout the day. Tim points out that the diarrhea thing is a lost causeism. That comes up in the post-war searching for the lost cause authors and for the audience. These are these are the Southern that after you're searching for how could Lee have lost
diarrhea?
Has to be his health.
Wait.
It's affecting his decision making.
So wait, are you even saying that the heart issue is lost cause?
No, the
diarrhea.
The heart issue, this over accentuating the diarrhea, it is not factual. Troy Harmon wrote a paper.
We talked about that.
I think it was like 2017 at the. They used to have an annual Gettysburg symposium, and they're in actually booklets. But Troy wrote an article in it. Where's Lee?
In the bathroom.
No. Oh. Lee travels extensively around this battlefield.
And you're going diarrhea.
Yeah. If this is a guy that we're going to paint the picture that he can't go far from the latrine, is because he can't. Harmon has the documentation in his paper that he wrote of all the places that we can put Lee and when, and he actually writes a paper basically following Lee. Where are all the places he's at all through the 3 days here?
Right.
This guy is not just demonstrating behavior that he is worried about being on a horse and taking a ride several miles down the road.
Well, I can make arguments against both Tim and Troy here. Okay, what was Tim's point again? Lost cause.
Lost causes.
So the marble man, this untouchable, impeccable man, those people with the Victorian sensibilities were willing to put out that he had diarrhea, and that's why he lost. Pashaw, Robert Gould Pashaw. I don't buy that one bit. I don't think so. Number 2, Troy's thing. Okay, now I got to see this list, but just, off the top of my head, hearing it, are you trying to tell me that there isn't a tree between each one of those points that he couldn't have stopped, popped a squat, and take a shat?
Yeah.
Everybody else was doing it.
Right.
Why couldn't Lee? He'd have his staff stand around and block him with the horses, and then he can go and have his little privacy and do it. I think...
Where are we going with this, Matt?
My point is the man had diarrhea. You know why? Because 90% of both armies had diarrhea.
Okay, I'm not going to disagree
What are you doing?
with you.
Playing the world's smallest violin?
This is the world's smallest violin over the diarrhea, because here's our point. Why are people bringing it up? Read Mike's question again. What did he say?
All right.
Did Mike say about, it affecting his decision making?
I'll read it again. I get where you're going. He said, how much did health impact the leadership style of both Lee and Meade, with Lee with the health issues and Meade with his lack? So he doesn't actually mention diarrhea.
0. This is my answer.
0.
The question is, how much are health issues affecting people's decisions? 0.
Okay.
Well, where do we have evidence of incoherence that, let's look at the decisions and let's do some critical thinking. And if we then look at it and we say, this is totally out of character, you must be on drugs or hallucinating or something, like your health is really affecting your decision making. Where do you find evidence of that?
I had the flu a few months ago. I'd never had the flu before in my life. I couldn't do jack. Okay. I've had diarrhea in my life. Mm-hmm. When I have diarrhea, not too effective. So now I know that these guys are a little more intrepid. They're made from a hardier stock back in those days than we are today. Right. But I would still argue that when the physical is in one way or another affected, the mental is also going to be diminished.
But my point, why I'm not going to look at a decision that's being made here strategically by Meade or Lee.
Right.
And say, wow, really
diarrhea.
Out of character, doesn't have any logic to it, don't know where you're coming off.
Must be diarrhea.
It's really strange and it's out of character. Yeah. I don't see that. But when you look at something, for example, like Stonewall Jackson at the Peninsula, and we're going to do the 7 days, where the man is documented to have not slept much in like 6 or 7 days.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, Stonewall Jackson is completely underperforming. Like no other time in the Civil War, where does Stonewall Jackson utterly and ridiculously fail? He doesn't have his troops where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be. He completely fails A.P. Hill. And if you read those accounts, you come away with, oh my goodness, Stonewall Jackson's terrible.
Yeah.
Why? He's sleep deprived. The man cannot function. It's the one time in the Civil War where you look at somebody that otherwise performs so admirably and it's completely out of character. There, I think you make a case that you've got a situation condition-wise that is significantly affecting a commander.
Okay.
Show me that here. I don't see that here.
I see what you're saying. Well,
you see what I'm saying?
I do. And in other words...
So why are we worrying about how many times Lee's pooping? Like... Okay, are we really going to make a case that it affects this battle? Let's look at the decision, shall we? I mean, do we really care how often he's going to the can?
All right. You're making a good point here. So In other words, what you're saying is that Lee's decisions are not out of character for him. He always let his subordinates have a wide berth.
Correct.
And he's doing the same thing here. The real problem is that his subordinates are failing him.
Yeah,
not his bowels failing everyone else.
Well, his past successes have been based on Longstreet and Stonewall Jackson.
Yeah.
Stonewall Jackson, ultra aggressive, right? So people ask me, what if Stonewall Jackson wouldn't have needed an order. If he would have seen the Yankees on the run, not runs, on the run, what would have been his reaction? Right? He's going to continue to push. What got him killed at Chancellorsville? He didn't want to stop the push.
Right.
And he's out in the dark, reconnoitering. He's being aggressive. Coming back toward the lines, he gets shot by friendly fire. He doesn't need an order. Lee's success, his style doesn't change. What changes is the subordinates.
Yeah, I get no.
You're not connecting with your new subordinate leaders, right?
Because of diarrhea, I would submit. Yeah. So
because you're not spending enough time with him. You're in a can.
He's in the can all the time.
Yeah.
He can't. Well, no, he didn't have the time. These guys got their command after Chancellorsville, and they're learning on the job, on the go, and he's not with these guys enough. He's not sharing battle experiences with them as their commander.
Right.
This is really the first time they're all getting together as an army and working together.
On a campaign.
Yeah. I mean, Winchester, it's Ewell. He's by his lonesome.
And he's by his lonesome. And what's he do?
He does a great job.
Yeah. The boss isn't around.
Right. Because now he's the commander.
I'm in charge.
Yes. And then A.P. Hill, he's here all by his lonesome. What does he do? He pushes forward and he
makes a decision.
Bloodies the Yanks, right? And then Ewell comes in and joins him.
Right.
Once Lee starts meddling with his diarrhea-covered fingers, it's all over.
Right.
It's all over. Now,
Jerry Murray asked that question online. Did Lee or Meade do anything special to develop leadership qualities of their subordinates? No, they don't have any time. These armies during the Civil War do not have time to have leadership primers and spend quality time with one another.
Right.
You get promoted by rank, seniority.
Yeah.
You're good at division.
Figure it out.
You'll probably be good at Corp.
Right.
But we're going to throw you in there and see if you fail.
Yeah.
Is more or less what happened.
And what other choice do they have?
No, they don't have time.
But now let's move on from the diarrhea thing. But I will say this here, okay? Todd Reynolds says, I painted my house when I had C. diff. I pooped myself 4 times. Now, I apologize to the audience for all of the scatological talk. But I mean, it is something. And obviously, if Tim Smith does a myth video about it, then it's obviously something worth talking about.
It is.
It's a very real thing.
It is a real thing.
And whether it's true or not, it is part of the story of Gettysburg.
It is.
Yeah.
So just like the hooves on the equestrian statues are. It's part of the story.
It is.
It's good to talk about it. How did it happen? Does Lee have medical issues? He certainly does. He dies of it in 1870.
Right.
He has got. It's amazing. Suffered at least a couple heart attacks.
Yeah. It's amazing
no
he
doubt
lasted so long after the war. It's amazing he finished the war.
Yes.
I mean, because that's diarrhea of whatever. What the body goes through in a Civil War army.
Yeah.
Okay. You're not getting good nutrition. You're barely getting sleep. If you are, it's not good sleep.
No.
You're in his case on a horse a lot.
Right.
Or in an ambulance jumper.
Right.
Like it is a terrible thing, especially for an old man with a heart condition to be going through. So that he not only lived to 1865, but then lived another 5 years.
Right.
Is amazing to me.
Right.
I mean, the man,
about the sleep thing and how sleep deprivation can absolutely affect your performance. And Stonewall Jackson's performance, at the beginning of the 7 days is a good example of that. What I like to point out in the Gettysburg campaign is when Hardee comes to Fifth Corps camp with the orders, I need to see General Meade. The staff deny him access. No. Who are you? You're in civilian clothes.
Right.
Why are you here? I have to see General Meade. No, the general is sleeping. What are they protecting? They're protecting that George Meade has had an opportunity to lie down It's 4 a.m. We are not allowing somebody with a message to wake him. It can wait. What are they protecting? They're protecting the fact that their commander probably laid down at 2.
Yeah, right.
And he's got till 4, and we're not going to disturb him because sleep is a luxury.
Yes.
But Hardee wins over by convincing them, no, I come from the War Department. This is important.
Right.
That's what's going to allow them to have entry to the tent and wake him.
Okay.
Okay. What are they protecting? The sleep opportunity of a commander who doesn't get any. Right? They're looking out for the boss, and it's important. And so the health question, but I do want to put it on record that Lentz brought the crap into this. Okay. Lentz had to bring, right? Lentz brought that into it. That is nowhere in the notes here, Matt.
No, it isn't.
We're going to go there.
No.
And he brought it in. He brought the crap into this discussion.
Thanks, Mikey.
Thanks, Mike.
That's Mike Lentz, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, Mike Lentz.
God. Okay. Continue.
So-
You know what I'm going to do? I'm changing midstream. You know what we're going to do?
Okay.
Give me these questions.
All right, go ahead. Yeah.
And then
Here you go, buddy.
Okay. Now let's keep going. And you know we're just gonna mix them in.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want to go with a question, or you want to go with the next point about me?
No, let's finish July 1st.
Okay, July 1st.
Okay, so we were basically saying that the vague orders and everything. So there's a style there. All right, you want to do Meade on July 1st now?
Meade on July 1st would be, he has come up with a great contingency plan. The pipe create, he's looking at geography. So Meade has chosen what is most important to him, which is choosing the field of battle, have the initiative. When you have the initiative, you want to pick the field of battle, but what comes with that is, the enemy is compelled to attack you. That's what comes with choosing the ground.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to choose the ground and then leave it to go attack somebody.
Right.
Yet choosing the ground comes with, they're compelled to attack you on ground of your own choosing. So that's
which would imply then that I am pretty certain this is tough ground to take.
Yeah. So I'm in a good position. It's playing chess.
Yeah.
Right. And getting it. So he's already kind of looking at all the geography, the creeks, the streams, Susquehanna, the geography. And so when the word that the fight has begun at Gettysburg, and his reluctance to commit to that and send Hancock. Why does he send Hancock? Hancock's available. As part of the campaign narrative, we just say, well, Hancock's an up and coming star. He's trusted, and Meade trusts him. Well, he does. But if Hancock was 18 miles away,
wouldn't have picked him.
He wouldn't have picked him.
Right.
Why didn't he send Slocum?
Right.
Slocum's not available. Who was closest to the Taneytown headquarters at the time where this comes up? Hancock.
Yeah.
Hey, come here.
Right.
He can talk to him.
Yeah.
Look at the map. Okay. This is what's going on up at Gettysburg. You're relieved of Second Corps. Give that to Gibbon. You are going to Gettysburg, and I want you to act in my behalf. You're in charge, even though you're least senior major general. You're in charge. I want you to go look at the situation. This is what's important. Do we have the good ground position? What I'm looking for, right? Okay. Go. Hancock does that. Then he sends word back. There you have a guy who's comfortable explaining to somebody else clearly what's important. Go. Come back. And they execute. See? You get good understanding. Do you understand what I'm looking at? You understand? Yep, I got it. And then Hancock communicates it, picks it. Hancock will always say afterwards, the ground that I chose.
Right.
Well, he's not lying.
Right.
Meade told you to.
Yeah.
Make us a decision. And he's willing to live with it.
So Meade,
he empowers a subordinate to go on his behalf, understanding the criteria that I'm telling you is important for the decision that I want to make. But ultimately, who did he empower to make the decision? Hancock. Here you have a leader who's willing to do that, but you also have a communication style of person to person, some clarity in conversation, and you're willing to go with that empowerment of make the decision.
Now, I'm not saying that Lee doesn't have this. I'm sure he does. But we know that with the order to take command of the Army, Meade is given a great deal of leeway.
Yeah.
And he's given things that Hooker couldn't have, right? And but one of the things is that he can do what he does here. He can empower Hancock to go and basically take command from a superior, well, not a superior rank, but a senior major general, which would be O.O. Howard, right?
Right.
So Meade, with that flexibility given from his leader, can now exercise a wider dynamic of leadership style. Now, again, not that Lee can't do that, but it sounds to me like, I believe that is the first time an Army of the Potomac commander is given such free reign to basically do what the hell he wants to do with his army.
Yeah.
It seems like the other guys had too much meddling from Washington, but this is an emergency and they've got to trust Meade to just do what he has to do to get rid of Lee.
Yeah. I mean, we always talk about that, but the actual words are, you will not be hampered by any minute instruction from these headquarters.
Yeah.
Your army is free to act as you deem proper under the circumstances as they may arise. You will, however, keep in view the important fact that the Army of the Potomac is the covering army of Washington, as well as the army of operation against the invading forces of the rebels. You will therefore maneuver and fight in such a manner as to cover the capital and also Baltimore, as far as circumstances will admit. So it starts out with, hey, you can do whatever you want, as long as.
Yeah.
Right, but then...
But that's still a lot of leeway.
But he also tells them, you are authorized to move from command and send from your army any officer or other person you may deem proper, and to appoint to command as you may deem expedient. There's the freedom you're talking about. I get the sense that the Washington Department is getting sick and tired of all the backbiting that's going on in the Army of the Potomac. They have just dealt with 2.5 years of this guy's no good and this guy and this infighting. And in here, when I read this, it's like, end it. Okay. Anybody's giving you any crap, send them home. Okay. And you can promote whoever you want. So how do they get there? Those are the words that allow him to do whatever he wants. And that's why he can do the Abner Doubleday's back in division. John Newton's coming from Sixth Corps. He's taking over the First Corps. I'm sending Hancock to override everybody else. This gives him the freedom to do that.
Yeah.
And that's what we look to, but part of it too is, I'm kind of reading between the lines there a little bit. We're sick and tired of all this sniping at each other. Anybody gives you any crap, just send them out of there. Right? Send them home. We'll
enough
give them
with the bullshit.
Yeah, enough. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah, enough with the diarrhea.
Yeah. So what were we talking about? Meade July 1st is empowering somebody to make a decision. That decision ends up being good because they end up winning. Spoiler alert. But you see a style of a commander willing to do that.
Right.
This is going to continue. So we're going to see this behavior is communication among all his corps commanders. You're going to see empowering. You're seeing a guy who's more collaborative.
Yes.
Than you are on the other side, which is a very kind of dictating, but then struggling with clarity, right? You've got vague and discretionary, but also somebody who's not. Lee is doing it by the West Point book, which is you don't hold meetings. You don't have councils of war.
It's just I do as I say.
Well, that's your job, and that's what they taught you. Is if you elevate to command, then command.
Right.
Don't ask people's opinions. That's why the quote was, "Councils of war don't fight," is because you don't bring people in a room and ask their opinions. Right. Make the damn decision. That's how you got where you are. That's the West Point predominant theory. So that's why these councils of war we're going to talk about, that's not really the accepted practice.
Yeah. It's interesting, though, that the Army of the Potomac under Hooker and Meade and...
Well, Hooker did it at Chancellorsville, but he just...
But he
went his own way.
Yeah, right.
Right, and then we're going to see Meade on July 2nd.
Yeah, but he listened.
One popularly known meeting, but there was the first one that we don't talk about so much, which on July 2nd, Meade calls a meeting of all Corps commanders for 3:00.
Mm-hmm.
That's
in the afternoon?
That's the one Sickles doesn't show up.
Right.
And he sends a staff officer, and Meade says, no, where's he at?
Right.
And this is where, when he shows up, it's don't get off the horse. We're going for a ride. And that's when Meade and Sickles go.
That's right. Okay. I forgot about that. You're right. We don't talk about that.
That meeting comes up in the testimony of the hearings on the conduct of the war in the wake of the whole Sickles, Butterfield accusations that Meade wasn't going to fight, and that the 3:00 meeting that was being called was to share the orders of retreat that Butterfield was making copies of, which is a fact that Meade was having Butterfield start to prepare if a withdrawal is needed, start to put together the logistics of that. What you see in the behavior of Meade is this guy is thinking two steps ahead all the time.
Yeah.
And then he gets criticized for it. So he takes command on the 28th, and by the 29th, he's starting to draw up a contingency of where he's going to position the Army across the Big Pipe Creek in Maryland. Right. And, depending on where I run into Lee, if this, then that. He's already making contingencies. He keeps doing at Gettysburg. And when they get into position, he's got two roads and he's positioning corps. And one of the things he's thinking ahead of is if things go bad, we don't need this to become some chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Put together our orders of withdrawal and how we're going to go about it. It's kind of like, you don't want to do a fire drill when the building's on fire.
Right.
You don't want it to be the first time you do it, right? You want people to be familiar with it. Okay, if we need to, this is where we're going to do. We're going to fall back to X. And so people have a little bit better, if an emergency comes about, you feel like you're a little bit better prepared.
Of course, I want my boss to give me that. Because what if we fail? What if there's chaos and we need to get the hell out of here? Or what if for whatever reason we decide that this is untenable and we have to go to a defensive position? It's not necessarily a route or something. I want to know where to go. Right. I want to know what to do.
Right.
And so, I don't think there's anything wrong. But again, it
gets used against him in this hearing thing. Just like Pipe Creek got used against him. These retreat orders that are being formulated are not a reflection of somebody who wasn't willing to fight, or was so in doubt that he's going to go ahead and call retreat. And then it gets painted that the Council of War just after midnight, where he's going to bring everybody together and ask the three questions. Are we going to stay? Should we stay, or should we withdraw south? If we stay, do we have an opportunity to attack? And if we do not, and we're going to remain defensive, how long do we wait?
Mm-hmm.
All of those questions are really being formulated too, because the longer the Union Army sits in Gettysburg, the supply situation is going to get more and more troubling.
Yeah.
Because they're dependent on a rail line out of Westminster. And that's not working real well coming up the Baltimore Pike with wagons, 22-mile round trip, one way, 44 miles round trip. And so Meade's concern, here's a guy looking 3 days out ahead, is if we stay here very long, we're going to be in trouble feeding horses and feeding men. The guy on the other side stole all the stuff. He's got he's got herds of cattle in the rear of his lines that he can slaughter.
Right.
Lee's army would be able to sit at Gettysburg for far more days than the Army of the Potomac. Our common narrative is Army of the Potomac has everything they need.
No,
not at Gettysburg. It's opposite.
Yeah.
And this also plays into why Meade doesn't have this overly aggressive tact after the Battle of Gettysburg. He has been poorly supplied for several days now in position at Gettysburg of an army who forced a march into the town, probably on the rations they had.
Right. Yeah.
And they're not bringing up rail cars into Gettysburg, folks. No. These guys in the Union Army are not being fed. So you have a guy looking ahead, and then because it got spun later, it's being used as a negative when I think it's absolutely a positive.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one thing that I love when I talk to somebody who's new to it and we tell them that it's the opposite of what you think.
Right.
The Confederates are better fed.
Yeah.
They've got way more stuff right at arm's reach. And
they're feeding their horses, they're feeding their men. Both sides are barefoot.
By the way, they're yeah, right.
Both sides are barefoot.
Right.
Both sides march the shoes off their feet. There's barefooted Union soldiers here at Gettysburg, right?
The barefoot Confederate, is that another lost cause thing? That they're this threadbare army?
I think it's legit that they walk the Brogan.
No, but I'm saying that they're the only ones.
Oh, that they're the only ones. Yeah, that's part of the narrative. Well, that's built on the fact that, too, is the resource equation is very heavily tipped. Union has resources.
Right.
They do. It's just that out in the field, that's not all. That shouldn't be painted as, oh, you're getting 3 square a day and 2,000 calories a day, and you always have shoes, and the other side doesn't.
Right.
No, there's times when you're going hungry and you don't have shoes too.
Yep, the Union soldiers are going hungry here
in Baltimore.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. But they got to go get them. Well, not in Baltimore. They're going to get them in Frederick.
You have to get them to you.
But I'm saying the Union soldiers, while they're here, some of them don't have any food for 3 days.
That's correct.
And you're sitting in the sun.
Right.
Right. You got the stress of battle, the adrenaline rush, the collapse or the crash. You know, that's why 18 to 20 something year olds are soldiers and not 45 and 56 year olds because it's just.
Yeah. And so where do you want to go?
Well, so I want to ask you.
We need to go back over to Lee.
Well, I want to ask you, since we're talking about July 2nd real quick, Balthazar asks, besides Sickles on July 2nd, were there any other Corps commanders or division commanders, I'll just say Corps commanders, who second guessed or argued Meade's orders or strategy?
Well, after the fact, Butterfield is not is not necessarily, he's not an ally.
No friend to Meade.
No, he's gonna
Dan Butterfield.
And then as time goes on, and there's an excellent book out now on Dan Butterfield by James Pula.
Okay.
Pula wrote the 2 volumes on the 11th Corps. He just wrote a biography and released on Butterfield. I heard him talk on that subject. Interestingly enough, then a few years later, Butterfield is actually is complimentary of Meade. So I think it's in that initial emotion of the moment, and now you're not chief of staff anymore because then he's going to be relieved, and Andrew A. Humphreys will be chief of staff for the Army of the Potomac, and so you've got that initial thing. But then Butterfield actually says some complimentary things about Meade, and later.
After
that, I think
probably after he got some sleep,
all the shakedown, all that stuff. And the only other one is Abner Doubleday is not happy, pissed, right? Because you take over First Corps when Reynolds goes down. You don't do anything wrong,
right?
Shouldn't the First Corps be his?
Right.
But he gets told, no, you go back to division. I'm bringing an outsider in. Sixth Corps. John Newton's going to be First Corps command.
It's Meade's right. He's given that order. He's given that leeway.
He is, but who's not a fan of Meade later? It's not necessarily the tactics at the battlefield, but Abner Doubleday is not a big fan. He's going to quit over it. He resigns.
Okay.
Goes into events baseball and.
Now, okay, we kind of touched on this before. Richard Snyder asked, does Jason think that the reorganization of the Army of Northern Virginia after Stonewall's death had in any way an effect on Lee's leadership at Gettysburg? Also, does he think Lee's health problems may have contributed to his leadership performance at Gettysburg?
We're not going to go to the second part. We've answered. Hey, we've beat that one to death. But the first part, absolutely. And what I see is Lee continues to behave the same way and does not adjust to his new team.
Mm-hmm.
It takes two to
totally agree with
miscommunicate.
you. Yeah.
I think it does affect it because now you're dealing with a 3-corps army. You have 2 newbies in Corps Command, and you don't adjust to that.
It would be hard enough.
You keep doing your job the same way that has led to success.
But you don't have the same people to help you.
But that was Longstreet and Stonewall.
Yeah. And I'm sure there was a bit of a learning curve when they started too. But like the thing that always strikes me is Lee reorganizes the Army. He's got untried new Corps commanders, new division commanders.
Yep.
And he says, you know what? Let's undertake an invasion, which is not easy to do. It's hard enough to get to learn each other's ways and whatnot in a defensive position. And then here you are going into enemy territory, so far from your supply base and everything, with these guys who are new and untried in these positions.
Right.
That's
to me, I go back to the weight of the campaign. The campaign decision cannot be has far more important factors than the team you're taking with you.
Right.
Okay. The whole power resistance is resource times means is will times means, and that's the driving factor. It's an unfortunate consequence that you've got 2 out of 3 newbies, right, that you're taking to the field with you. I don't think that's actually a consideration for it, but I think the failure in leadership would be, should he have better altered the way he communicated or led based on the fact that I'm dealing with 2 new guys.
Right.
We don't know each other yet, and we don't know our communication styles. So yes, the answer is the reorganization. Absolutely, 100%. You just see the dynamics of the communication not being executed to. And the other thing is, we sit here and dwell on the results. Right?
Yes.
We already know the results. But then you look back at the way it's communicated and then you critique that.
So here, Jamie Umstead, our dear darling friend Jamie. I think she's watching now, or she was at least. She says she's got 3 good questions that I want to ask. Jamie says, and I know how to say ask, by the way. Why do so many historians point to Lee declaring it's all his fault as his strength or as a strength? Go ahead with that one.
Culture of accountability.
Yeah.
As opposed to blame.
I think that's a huge strength, is to be able to admit when you're wrong.
When something goes wrong, the immediate reaction of a poor leadership style is look for a scapegoat other than me. Okay, because that's going to build a culture that's going to reflect that. Whereas when something doesn't go the way, the outcome isn't what you wanted, and you immediately think, what did I need to do better?
Yeah.
You're going to own your piece. People see that.
Yeah.
Then they'll behave the same way you did.
Yep.
Which is, no, boss, I could have done better.
Yep.
And then the other person looks at it and goes, no, I could have done better.
And then the boss turns around and says, you're right. We all sucked, and we're going to do better next time.
So we'll do better next time. And you build a more cohesive thing. What does Lee tell? We only have the response of Lee to Pickett's report, which is, no, we're not going to talk that way. Right. So we believe he was casting shade on the North Carolinians.
Oh,
he's blaming somebody.
So we actually have a theory as to who he was bad-mouthing?
There's only one person on his flank, and that's the North Carolinians.
Yeah, but there's a couple people behind him, or above him, if you will. Longstreet, Lee.
Oh, well, he could,
or whoever decided to take 2 of his brigades.
Okay, so what your point is, he could be.
There's a lot of people he could have been. Yeah.
But
because we know that story later, if it's true from Mosby.
That man destroyed.
Yeah, he's kind of bitter.
Yeah, he is. He's not liking, and
because this is his big chance,
and Lee's not liking him back because he says at Five Forks, "Why is that man still with the Army?" Right?
Shadbake.
Yeah. So, but it's the culture of accountability or a culture of blame, and Lee 2 ways at Gettysburg projects that he doesn't want to go that way. Right. One is It's all my fault. Show good order. It is my fault this day, not yours. And then the other thing is rejecting Pickett's report that very obviously must have been blaming. And he rejects it.
Yeah.
It says, no, just stick to the facts, put your numbers in there, and resubmit.
She also says, who was a more compassionate leader, Lee or Meade, and por qué?
Yeah, I don't. Compassion is a tough one for a decision maker who people are going to die either way.
Yeah.
But Meade is the collaborative one. Meade is the one who behaves in such a way that I'm interested in your thoughts, and we're going to actually ask you and keep track of what your answers are.
And heavily consider them.
And really consider them.
Yeah.
Because at Chancellorsville, I was in your chair. Okay.
Right.
And I didn't much appreciate that you asked us our opinions, but then didn't care and just made your own decision.
Yeah.
So you see this background. So if I'm going to say compassionate, I'm going to have to change that to who's more interested and engaging and about your opinions, because in Lee's case, we have, Longstreet telling us later that I didn't agree that we should fight there. And I was expressing my opinion during it. And Lee's saying, no, we're going to do it anyway. To answer Jamie's question, I'd have to say Meade.
Yeah, I think so. The Meade, it's funny because I always say that the scene at Appomattox when Lee's there, dressed to the nines, polished sword, polished boots, on time, Grant's late, covered in mud, wearing a private's blouse.
Pants tucked in.
And it, to me, that is symbolic of the changing of times. We've gone from the days of chivalry and all that. This is the death of it in the United States, at least. And now the new American, the man who has reached the high status, but is still willing to get down in the trenches with the boys, right?
Yep.
That's the new leader. That's the new American. That's what's going to bring us into the modern age.
The guy who's more about rolling his sleeves up and getting the job done and making sure we're winning as opposed to pomp and circumstance.
Right.
We're not wearing sashes.
No. And to me, the Civil War as a whole is the death of an old way of life that really was fighting tooth and nail to not die. But I think to the leaders of that society, the writing was on the wall that their way of life was going to be consumed by the growing northern way of life.
Right.
And they didn't want it to end. Right. And sure, racism was part of it, but also I think it was a more simpler thing, which is just, I don't want things to change wherever they change in any way.
Right.
And so, but they represent that old world way of thinking, that aristocracy, and that's not what this country was founded to be.
Right.
It was supposed to be the opposite of that, and they were holding on to it. And the rest of the country was like, no, man, it's a little cooler if you go this way. And they're like, no.
Help me with the phrase. The Civil War is the last of the old ways and the first of the modern war. Like,
are we creating the phrase, or are we trying?
No. It's been reused.
I mean, I've heard it.
Civil War is the last of the old wars and the beginning of the new
of the modern.
Modern.
I've always just heard it as it's the first modern war. That's what I always hear it as.
I see that you have Lee, and then you have
Meade
and the Army of the Potomac.
Who's doing things by committee.
Yeah.
And Lee is dictating like a king or an aristocrat or a lord or whatever you want to say.
Not holding councils of war. No. I make the decisions, kind of a thing. Yep. And
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I still think today our military needs a leader or two who are like Lee in that sense. I don't think everything needs to be done by committee. In some ways, I find that to be ineffective because it's like it's too Oprah.
Yeah, but
so you know what I'm saying by that?
But one of the things that has developed in our modern military, and you see this in the staff rides, is there's certain aspects of clear communication so that everybody in the unit, in the operations, understands the intent.
Yes.
That way you can make decisions on
that are in line with the intent of the commander.
So the clarity of communications is one of those things that has developed over time. They didn't have officers' intent language then.
No.
That's something we use today, even though we use it in the context of this battle, and we'll say, you'll understand officer's intent when he attacks in the early afternoon. But they weren't using those words, and they weren't teaching that.
Well, it's interesting. So we're saying how Meade and Lee are different in this way here.
Yeah.
But Captain Steve Byers, who I don't know why he said captain, because he's actually now a colonel. I have his Eagles here. If he would ever come to frickin' town, I'd give them to him. But he is the head of our Addressing Gettysburg book club.
Yeah.
And he says one thing that has come up a few times in the Addressing Gettysburg book club is how Lee's leadership and command at Antietam matches what Meade was doing at Gettysburg. For example, very hands-on in directing units into the fray and striking from the quieter parts of the line to help strengthen the parts that were faltering. Do you think this is a fair assessment? I would say no. That's my say. What do you say? Yes or no? And then we'll explain. We'll defend.
I think I see him more involved there, but I think it's situational.
So you would say no as well?
I'm kind of splitting it. I see their point in the book club. I do, but the situation is a bit different.
Well, let's do similarities. They're in a defensive position with interior lines, both armies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
There you go.
That's similar.
And also I think Lee, he's directing the reserves.
Right.
Right. Which I guess he would have to.
He's on the defensive.
Right.
Yep.
But but he's not doing a council of, well, does he? I don't know, because I don't know a lot about Antietam. Is there a council of war with his? No, he's not.
I've
never heard one, but I'm not that deep into Antietam yet. But my point is that he, to me, doesn't come off the same way Meade does. Meade is considering other people's opinion in order to devise his strategy and his tactics if he's going to.
Yeah. I don't see his style different there, but I see the similarity on the field of battle in that, to your point, they're in a defensive position. They have an interior line, and he is directing forces left and right.
As an Army commander would do.
But I don't see him collaborating or using other people's opinions. He's still calling the shots, and he's making decisions based on what he finds out. Like, he was ready to withdraw until he found out from Jackson, Harper's Ferry has fallen. That changed his mind. That wasn't Stonewall saying, "Hey, boss, I think you should fight at Sharpsburg."
Right.
It
was just information.
It was information.
Right. Which then helped him figure out what to do.
But he decided what he's going to do. You don't see him having councils of war. You do see him directing on the field more, taking a more upfront role, but I think that goes also to your point.
I think Lee is in a more dire situation than Meade is at Antietam, because Lee has a very small army there.
Right.
And so if anybody's going to be running around, and by the way, the Army commander should be shifting the reserves. A corps commander or a division commander would not be saying, "Hey, you know what? Sounds like they need help down on the left. Hey, why don't you take your division and go?" Like,
he's doing his job.
You have to do that. Yeah. So situationally, I think there's similarities, but I don't think operationally, the way they operate,
I don't see a style different there.
Yeah. No. But I love that question, Steve. That's great.
A good one.
And I skipped to that only because you had said something that was kind of pertinent to it. But then I want to go back to Jamie's last question. She said, "Did Lee have a contingency plan?" What was it? We never talk about this.
No.
What was his plan if he failed here?
So that's a great segue into, I wanted to touch on this because we opened with the weight of the war on Lee and what's at stake with the campaign, right? Mm-hmm. So you get drawn into a battle that you didn't orchestrate on July 1. You come away from that day with a clear knowledge that the Army of the Potomac's not there.
Right.
You push back 2 corps. Maybe there's a third. But let's just look at what we do know. Lee knows they aren't all there. Okay, so you've got this imperative. You want to win a decisive victory.
Right.
You have ultimate confidence in your men. You have, most of it will be on the field by early morning, lacking picket, right? And cavalry, but cavalry is not infantry that you're going to use on an attack. As I look at it, what's his driving motivation for attacking on July 2nd, even when you have a guy of Longstreet's experience in your ear saying, yeah, but they're on good ground. Yeah, but they're on good ground. They want us to attack. Is, yeah, but it's more of a one-on-one fight, buddy.
Yeah.
If we wait and we maneuver, likely the situation will play out that all 7 corps will be against us. And that numerically will not favor us. Mm-hmm. What I see in front of me, James, is more of a one-on-one, and we win one-on-ones.
Yes.
Okay? So if we're going to crush these people, okay, as they're coming up and they're spread out and they're not on the field yet, let's get them. All right? So that's what's driving him on July 2nd, in my viewpoint, is why would you attack is, well, there's a decent opportunity yet. And no, I'm not going against that formidable hill. We're going to get them on the flank, right? So we scout in the morning. We've got an opportunity. Now we need to move. Now, you could argue that, was it realistic to deliver the economy of force in a timely enough fashion? And did you're still lacking information because you don't know when they'll show up. And what can change between scouting in the early morning hours and by the time you're ready to execute. So there's this dynamic situation of, yeah, but did Lee consider what can develop, right, over these hours? But to me, the compelling factor is, why would you attack? Well, they're not all there, and that favors us. Mm-hmm. So let's do it. Once you play your card for July 2nd, you're Lee. You played that. And it almost wins, right?
Right.
You drive them from the field on both ends.
Sure.
You make it to the top of Cemetery Hill. You just didn't have enough forces to hold it, right? You get to Cemetery Ridge. You almost take the flank hill on Little Round Top.
Yeah.
Always just a little wee bit short on resources, right?
Right.
But you have to be encouraged.
Sure.
At the point of attack, the guys are getting it done.
Right.
Right?
One more push.
Right. Now, what's going to compel you on July 3rd is you had a first plan. Attack both flanks, coordinated. Doesn't go well. How do we end up with the attack that we all refer to commonly as Pickett's Charge, right? Is remember the weight of the war. One thing you can't get more of in Pennsylvania is ammo.
Right.
You are no longer afforded the opportunity to shuffle the deck, start to maneuver, and then be in a position, even if it does work out in any way favorable, to now have the ammo to fight any kind of protracted, decisive battle.
Yeah.
Everything in my mind comes down on him on, I had a plan for the 3rd. That got screwed up, oh, by the way, by your style of communication, never having a meeting with all 3 corps commanders in the same room at the same time. Never.
Yeah.
You meet with them individually and sometimes 2 at a time, but never all 3 at the same time. You see the difference?
Yeah, it's a huge difference. And this is actually, the movie Gettysburg makes allusions to this, but I don't think they're doing it to make this point. They're making this point to make him look like a religious, pious man, but constantly through the movie, Lee spends more time praying or saying God's will than he does much of anything else, right? Like he's just running around praying all the time. It's in God's hands now. So like God's will, God's will, God's will. It's like, okay, but you know what? God wants you to kind of help yourself. Like, do something.
Trust in God, but keep your powder dry.
It's like he brought his army to the field.
Right.
We see the enemy in front of us, and he's like, I'm going to I got a plan for you, and everybody else will figure it out because it's God's will.
By the time you get to early mid-morning, and you know that the coordinated attacks aren't going off, picket hasn't been moved, you are now at the point with your ammunition in the scenario that, to me, it's do nothing or do something.
Yeah.
You're at the bottom of the ninth, and you look at the bench, and you got a couple pinch hitters there. You got to put one of them up at the plate and go for the home run ball. This is the Hail Mary time of the football game, okay? And you've got the whole context of the war, the resource situation. You've come this far. You're in Pennsylvania. Do you have the hope that you can still deliver the kill blow? Or if you don't, you have to admit right now this campaign's done.
Yeah, yeah.
The ammo situation won't allow it. You see how the cards get played?
Yeah.
July 1, then the card for July 2. It's kind of like you got Texas Hold'em, right? Mm-hmm. And so now that card's played. Now that changes the next card, right? And so by the time you play the card that the coordinated attack didn't happen, we're playing the card on the Pickett's charge of this is the last best chance we got. And so people look, why would you do that? And why didn't you listen to Longstreet? Well, look at what we're looking at as it builds. And the scenario changes this is a developing battle from the moment they clash.
This wasn't his plan when he woke up
and it
that
develops every day through the hours, and it changes the landscape. This isn't one singular. The critical thinking has to take all the inputs as you know them at the time you know them. And to me, you make a final attack on July 3rd because otherwise you're done. Just go home. And it's not going to get any better when you go back across the Potomac River. Okay, you're right back in the situation you were at Chancellorsville.
Yeah, I think he should have not bothered with July 3rd because he had one fresh division. And he knows he has to conserve his ammo,
right?
Because he's got to get back to Virginia, and who knows what fights you'll get in along the way. So so like, to me, July 3rd. The Pickett's charge portion of July 3rd was a total and complete waste of life and ammunition.
You know that because of the result.
Because of the result. Oh, I'm not saying he should have known that. Although it seemed, if we believe Longstreet really said to him that couldn't happen, someone was in his ear and he could have considered it.
Yeah.
Meade might have considered that if he was in that position.
But to me, the context is, if I'm Lee and we're going to load up the wagons, we got all these cattle, the goodies thing is a success. It absolutely is. He's going to feed his army for months.
Yeah.
On what he took from Pennsylvania. Success. But when you go back across the river, back into Virginia, it's the exact same equation. It's not looking good. If you don't win this victory here now, you're no further than you were.
Yeah.
You've got them pinned in a spot here. You have 100% confidence your guys can get the job done. Give them a good opportunity, right? Artillery barrage, send the men in, blow them in half. We could still win the war. We could break the will of the North here. Does it have a chance? Has a chance, right? I always think of Dumb and Dumber,
So you're saying
there's a chance.
What do you think the chances of a girl like me and a guy like you getting together sometime? Pretty slim. Like 1 in 100? More like 1 in a million. So you're telling me
there's a chance, right? But think about it. When you really put it in the context of winning the war.
Yeah.
You see how you walk away?
I understand, and I don't know.
Should we just walk away? Well, if you walk away, you're probably not going to have the opportunity again.
Right. I get that. So like pride is kind of getting in there a little bit, and but also like a gambler, you know, you got to
of the whole independent thing.
But now the other thing is that I'm not sure if how aware Lee was of the cannon duel at the Peach Orchard the day before and how effective it was. And the infantry assault was there. Mm-hmm. But that was a much shorter distance for Longstreet's men to cover than what they had to cover a little further north at what we call Pickett's Charge.
Yeah, but
I know he used more cannon, but again, it's a different setup, and that it's that distance.
But Wright got to the copse of trees on July 2nd.
Wright got to the copse of trees when everybody else was looking south, for the most part, right?
Well, it's a different scenario.
Yeah, it's a different scenario.
Because it's an echelon attack.
Right. But these guys on the 3rd are staring right across the field at you.
And it's like we're all coming there.
Yes, right.
But it's not like, they broke our line down to the left, and by the time, and he asked Wright, you got there. Can you get there? And he said, General Lee, it's not the getting there that's the hard part. It's the staying there.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can get there, but you're going to need some punch once you get there to keep it.
Right.
But
which they didn't have.
But to me, as a guy, when I interpret to people who show up and go, this is insanity. Like, why would you attack this kind of attack? Well, it's Napoleonic.
Right.
Napoleonic tactics say if you strike an enemy on their flanks, hit them in the middle. That's why Meade kind of predicted that it could happen. That's why he told Gibbon, if he attacks me tomorrow, it'll be in your front. Because he's reading the same West Point book. But to me, what would compel a commander to do something chancy? Like, we look at that and go, yeah, but Longstreet says, I don't really think that's going to work. Now, no 12,000 men, 15,000 men may take that ridge. I don't think that Lee didn't think it wasn't chancy. I think he thought it was a long shot, but I think he thought, I have to. We'll never be in this position again. Our situation will not improve.
Right. Again,
it will not
going
improve.
Back to the beginning, he's up here because he knows they're in a bad situation.
Right, and that situation is not going to improve.
See,
I don't think we can protract this war long enough to really accelerate the breaking of the will of the North to the point where they'll negotiate if we can't smack them, right? We're right here. We're in Pennsylvania, and you're saying there's a chance, right? You say, right, though, but you see what I'm saying?
I do.
Like, you got to take your chance.
Yeah. No, I get it. All right.
It's like that quarterback, and he's not really open, but we only have 10 seconds left, and so what if I throw an interception? I have to try for the touchdown.
Yeah.
It may be an interception, but we're going to lose if I don't try. You see, that's...
Yeah, no, I get you. All right, now look, with this one, and I'm so sorry, ladies and gentlemen, patrons who submitted, this provoked a lot of questions.
It did.
And we have gone for 3 hours.
3. That's our limit. 3. That's it.
So now, so in the interest of acknowledging everybody here, I want to apologize to the following people: Charles Fuller, Roy Meade, Joseph Jacobs, Jerry Murray, Jeff Pasnick, Brian Wolf, and Will Eichler. You guys all submitted questions, and we just got on such a roll that we've run out of time to ask these questions in their entirety because there's a lot of them.
Can we respond to those?
So
in the chat, or is there a way to respond to those even though we're not on the content? And some of those topics, as I read, we touched on them.
You know what? Here's what we'll do.
Why don't we respond to them?
You have the Google Drive document, right?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Go into that document, answer the questions in like all caps or something.
Right.
Okay. Keep them pithy. and then tell me when it's done. And when it's done, I'll copy and paste it and make it a post on Patreon.
Great.
And then they can all read their answers.
Great.
Okay.
Right.
Because I feel bad about it because these are really good questions here. But we do have to get going, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm so sorry about that. But this was a fun one. I broke my format because I just enjoyed the conversation, and I said, well, let's just pepper these damn questions in here.
Yeah, and this is something that invokes a lot of interest to people because these concepts and things are applicable to us, and we like to get in the head of these guys right here.
They really are. I think it's I've always believed that if you study military leaders and the decisions they make in these high stress, you know, all like high stakes moments, it kind of makes normal life pretty easy to navigate.
Yeah, and some people, you know, or listening to this may go, oh, I don't agree with that. You know, I don't know where Hileman's coming from with this, you know, that angle. You know, you favor the diarrhea theory. I don't. You know, we can disagree. Had to bring that back into it.
You did.
I did.
You know, I it's not the diarrhea theory per se. What it is I favor the. Let's not forget these are human beings too, and they're affected by the same things that make us leave work early on.
And I'm not downplaying that. I'm just saying, I don't see it as I don't see that the decision is impacted because of that. I'm sure they're not doing well. I get it. I might exaggerate a little bit the importance that I put on diarrhea, but the thing is, and I'll give you an example. Like so Lee, I'm Lee. I've got major diarrhea, and I stay in my tent the whole time, and I operate through my staff, right? Like I send orders through them. That's what they're there for anyway, right? They're there to assist me as the Army commander, and I'm sick, so I stay there with a bucket next to my bed, and they take care of things for me, right? So it's not that it's impossible, to still do the job, right? I would like to see Troy Harmon's list of all the places. Send that to me because that's interesting. Because then maybe that'll wipe the diarrhea away. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we got to go. I thank you so much, Jason, for doing this. Thank all the patrons for watching the recording session here live and for their questions and comments. Thank you all very much. And of course, I thank you. We will be back live maybe next week. I don't know, because I don't know when this is going to air. But I'm telling you, we'll be back soon live. But that's it. Thanks for watching, and good night.
Addressing Gettysburg's Ask a Gettysburg Guide is produced by Matt Callery, Mikey B. Bariski, and Tad Scase. Hosted by Matt Callery, featuring Mikey B. and Court Micker. Engineered by Tad Scase. Guests booked by Dave Bussiere of TR Historical. Broadcasting from and recorded at the Gettysburg Museum of History Studios. Thanks for listening.
Instead of small, drink down there and pay the reckoning on the nail. No man forget shall go to jail from Gary and glory. Instead of small, drink down there and pay the reckoning on the nail. No man forget shall go to jail from Gary and glory.
Copyright 2026, Addressing Gettysburg LLC, all rights reserved.